The point that I'm making here is that I think you can say stuff like, eat the rich, fuck Bezos, but then go ahead and make a lot of money being a socialist streamer and then spending that money on a nice house. I just don't fundamentally think there's like a break in the ideology there, you know?
The Taliban has shown for over 20 years that they've had more clout, more resources, more military strength than whatever country decides to oppose them.
They don't, though. That's just false.
Are you okay?
Wait,
all
hold
right.
on, hold on, hold on.
Okay.
The Taliban goes into hiding, and what the Taliban does is they go into hiding, and then they attack. They jump out and attack, and so they just go into hiding into other countries. They go into other countries where
how fast has this takeover been?
Oh my God, I'm muted.
The takeover was within like 11 days, but that was because that was because of the way Biden called the shots.
Oh, because Biden called it. So Biden was telling the Taliban to go en masse to do that as fast. This is a stupid. This is a stupid take, Sprouticus.
Okay,
wait. Stupid take.
Okay, no, stop.
The access to that information can be incredibly difficult, and sometimes it's up to the cashier to know what to do in those situations. As a common example, if I buy just a standard soda and cleaning product. Let's say I just buy like a bucket of bleach. So 99 cents and $1.99.
You can't buy that with EBT.
Of course you can.
No, you can't buy bleach with EBT.
I just said you can't! Why are you not listening, CTV? Holy fuck!
You said you can.
Fuck! You don't listen to anything I say, and you're looking for straws. Oh my God! Bro, just shut the fuck up and listen to what I say, bro. Why are you like this?
Okay, look, I think we've achieved.
Dylan.
Not wrong.
How's it going, everybody?
Great to be here. How are you?
I'm doing okay, all things considered. My freezer broke, so I lost all my lovely meated goods. So that sucks.
Oh shoot!
Lost all my meated goods. So that's a bummer. I won't be able to, like, I don't know, roast a fucking turkey after this. Sad, terrible. I'm just gonna have a victory feast. But
that's what you get for not being a vegan.
That's true. That's true. You know. I believe that the best way to turn people into vegans is to sabotage their kitchen appliances. I think that's the best way we do it.
True.
Break into people's homes and smash their refrigerators. That will bring them to the cause. Anyway, I want to welcome you all to the Hippy Dippy Roundtable today. Thank you all for coming from all across the globe. Very different, diverse places within the United States, and one person from America's hat. I appreciate that very much. We're going to have a diverse set of topics with our diverse set of guests. First of all, I want to put out a big announcement. Politically Provoked has bought Hippy Dippy. They have paid me $20,000. Brittany is going to be hosting everything going forward from now. Don't worry. It's only going to be centrist and right-wing hosts going forward. It's going to be great. The first match is two anime profile picture people arguing over incest. It's going to be next Friday. It's going to be great. Besides that, I want to welcome you all to the big show. I'm going to go through some rules. The first rule I want to put everybody forward is there's going to be nothing against terms of service done today. If you do that, that's an immediate kick. I would like to keep my job. I'm sure everybody else here would like to also keep their job. The next rule, of course, is no racial slurs or anything attacking people's immutable characteristics. Nothing of that sort. If you have to ask if it's a racial slur, don't say it. We've had that. Somebody asked me that before on the show. Please don't frustrate me and ask that question today. The next rule is going to be anytime I'm talking, you are not talking. I'm not talking to give my opinion. I am simply talking to moderate. I will not be giving my opinion today on any of the topics. So if you hear me talking or hear my voice in any way, please stop. I will mute you if you do not stop. I'm going to be pretty strict with today's moderation to keep everything nice and orderly. I've apparently scared Trihex. Well, no, there he's back.
No, I'm sorry. That's the wrong thing.
No worries. And finally, the holy notepad. If you have a problem talking in this format, I understand. Not everybody can bulldoze the way into a conversation when 8 people are talking. Raise your hand as a last resort, and I will write it down, and I'll make sure eventually I'll get over to you. Now, you have to be patient, because this is an active conversation. I'm not just going to shut it all down for you. But if you do that, I'll try to make sure that you get time to talk during every topic. You have an intro segment, outro segment. Most of you know this by now. Most of you have seen Hippy Dippy, or you've been on Hippy Dippy or something like that before. I think we all get the gist. Are there any questions? No? Wonderful. Okay, so now we're going to go around the room. Everybody's going to introduce themselves quickly. And after they introduce themselves, we're going to go into the first topic. So we're going to start in the top left-hand corner with the new guest who's ever been here before, Brant, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, introduce yourself.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Brant from BrantForLiberty at Twitch. I basically run a crowdsourced media Twitch channel. We cover everything that's happening in the world and abroad, and I'm here to battle. I'm a center-right libertarian. Consider myself a South-centrist, so I'm very appreciative. Thank you for inviting me, Dylan, and I look forward to a spirited debate.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to have you here. Now we're going to throw it over to the veteran and the self-declared people's champion of the Hippy Dippy Championship, CTV.
Well, not really self-declared. I saw it enough in chat for it to just be a thing. But I am critically thinking veteran. Been here for a while. Been a part of the community for over a year now. So happy to be here tonight and have a good conversation.
Amen, brother. Now we're going to send it over to the best beard on Twitch and also the co-host of my new podcast, Burned Out, me and Heemed, my favorite guy. Send it over to the best beard on Twitch. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. DrHeemedOut, or you can just call me Heem. I stream here on Twitch and also post on YouTube really fucking early in the morning at 5:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern before I go off to the hospital to do my research. I just like to talk about politics, life, whatever. I have a beard cam, and I would align myself. I would call myself a sock dem. So I look forward to triggering everybody today.
Happy to have you on here. Now we're going to send it over to somebody I recently had a spirited discussion about Afghanistan, which will soon be uploaded to YouTube. Sprouticus.
My name is the Sprouticus. Dylan professed after the Hippy Dippy Championship that I was the true champion. So you're sitting here with the People's Choice, the true champion, and then the person who got his belt stolen. So I think we'll have a good debate here, and I look forward to debating these two topics.
I also need to give Sprout a shout out because Sprout was somebody who would not get the vaccine because of a personal medical reason. He expressed that he wanted to wait till FDA approval. And you want to know what? And I got to give him credit for this. When the FDA approved it, he got his vaccine and posted it on Twitter. He actually did it. So I got to give him props for that. Very happy to see that. Happy for you to stick by your word. I'm going to send it over now to Joe Lewis, somebody I recently got brisket with.
That is true. Hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, I'm Joe Lewis. I stream on Twitch. The handle is Joe Lewis with the O being a 0. Yeah, that's all I got for now. But thanks for having me. Glad to see some faces of new and old.
How did that school board meeting go, Joe?
The recall, so I guess a little bit of like back end on that. The recall petition for the Loudoun County Public School Board is underway. They have enough signatures. They just have to submit it to a judge. One of the removals with the individual Beth Barth is already underway. So the criminal complaint is already filed. So they're underway. If it goes anywhere, we'll see. But
I heard there was a certain celebrity there of some sort, certain conservative celebrity. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, Dr. James Lindsay was there. I got a picture which I'm going to uphold for as long as possible, but it was a pretty interesting experience to see how these individuals talk about dissenting opinions on CRT and what should be done for parents. So that was kind of interesting.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to send it over to Kevin Castley, who recently had a debate with people like Wuzzleroot on Politically Provoked. Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite again. Love the Hippy Dippy show. Basically, I want to thank Dylan Burns just before I get into my intro. Dylan Burns covered me for about half an hour. You can check out my performance of Dylan's analysis there. You were talking about debates, debate bro, that kind of stuff. Look, Dylan and I, we've both gotten a lot better at debates and everything. And as I was saying earlier, I mean, look, I used to not enjoy debates. Now I do enjoy debates. That's credit to Dylan Burns. So thanks for getting me into the debate bro stuff, Dylan. So for me, I'm Kevin Castley. I run the channel Superpower Broadcasting, do daily live streams to YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. I additionally do daily premieres to YouTube. That's thanks to all the patrons that are out there that power that. So thank you to you guys. You guys are awesome. Additionally, I consider myself a liberal hawk / unilateralist. I'm a feminist. I am a basically somewhat center of right on economics and pretty socially left. And I mostly talk about foreign policy, geopolitics, security issues, things of that sort. But I've been branching out more to talk about economics and social issues. But everything with Afghanistan that's come up has meant that a lot of my content recently is, of course, focused on Afghanistan because that's so important right now. I'll also say this just to close, basically. If you're interested in checking me out and everything, you can find me over on YouTube, Twitch, at Superpower Broadcasting. Thanks. It's good to be here. Let's go.
Happy to have you on. Now I'm going to send it over to Trihex, who's been doing a lot of fitness streams recently. You want to talk about that at all?
Sure. Yeah. So in short, I've been pushing my grind to get to 12% body fat. That's at the point where you have like visible ab definition, and that's whenever you're like a certified like douchebag fit. I want to push it. I feel like that's like if I can do that, then it's gonna be like, if I can do it, then literally anyone can do it. Because I woke up like in July 2020, middle of the pandemic, and I was at the worst shape of my life. I was 20% body fat, 220 pounds. I'm 5'8" for context here. And I was like, damn, dude, I really let it go. The pandemic really got to me and then some, but I've cleaned it up here. Year and some change now. And I'm all the way down to 193, the lowest I've been weight wise since 2017. And I have a lot more muscle than I did at that time. So I've been like getting up big time here. So I'm kind of working on like a fitness Bible, if you will, that I only want to really, I have like tips in there from my own anecdotal experiences, but I want to like really bang it out once I've actually hit that 12%, because I have all the journey very transparent in my Discord, and the community knows I've been hitting the gym pretty hard. So
could people call you the fitness prophet then?
Oh, you can call me Fit Hex, you can call me Trihex, you can call me Fit Hard, you can call whatever you want. Actually, if you see over here, one of my hacks actually that I have here is I eat salads with I don't use dressing. I use a combination of like Parmesan truffle seasoning, pecans, and candied cranberries. And what I do is I eat them with my hands as if they were potato chips. A small mental hack.
Oh, I have a hack too.
But it's delicious.
I buy Takis and then I eat them. Okay, we're gonna move over to Trihex. We're gonna move over to Vaush, who, of course, Vaush screwed Vaush. We all know it. He couldn't follow the rules or respect the championship, so he lost it. Very disrespectful. But in my good graces, as the best panel host on Twitch, I've decided to, since I'm a saintly individual, not act like the Taliban and kick him from the country as he has to like flee on planes, and I've allowed him back in for this podcast.
You're a hell of a gymnast, Dylan. Yeah, I've been on a bit of a fitness kicker myself. I was 280 6 months ago. Now I'm around 235, getting in it.
Go.
Nowhere near 12% body fat, but it's nice to have goals. I'm also a professional Bloodborne streamer. My political ideology is whatever keeps cities from looking like Yarnum. And that's pretty much it from 1 to 100.
Happy to have you all here. So let's get into the first topic of the night. Now, of course, I will not legislate your niceness, but I will say that always be nice. Make sugar your favorite spice. Good luck. Now we're going to go into the first topic, and the first topic has to do with Hasan's new house. Never has there been so much dialogue about a streamer buying a home, but there has been a lot of dialogue on whether Hasan buying his new, very nice home is hypocritical at all, since he is also a socialist, a pretty avid, outspoken socialist. That's all the background I think anybody needs to have. I think we all know the topic in question. So we're going to, as always, we're going to go from the top left-hand corner. We're going to start with Brant.
Well, first off, it's always great to be successful, and I'm never going to hate on anyone for doing the grind, spending the time, putting the time and the effort in. That being said, when it's in complete juxtaposed to what your platform that you've built up and the community that you've built up, as far as consistency, I feel like it kind of goes against what you've been preaching. It's kind of like a practice first what you preach. But like I said, I would never hate on anybody for being successful. And, my hat goes off to him. Good job, Hasan. Keep it up. But other than that, like, as far as your message, I'm pretty sure your community has a bone to pick with you. But other than that, that's basically my 2 cents.
Okay, we're going to throw it over to CTV. Also, please do donate and sub to the channel so I can buy my own mansion. CTV?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here, folks, right? The left, right? Left, right. see, is always, almost fucking always hypocritical. This is one of those key junctures where it's like, Brant, like, I hear you, right? You don't want to get down the guy that fucking works, right? Puts in the time to do, to fucking get where he's at, right? You don't want to get down on that. But the reality is that when you build your platform, right, like you said, on different values, there shows the inconsistency. So this is where, like, there is no reason in the fucking world, right, to not hold people to their fucking principles, right? So why is it that you think that it's much better for you to go buy a fucking mansion in West Hollywood and pay $3 fucking million for it versus, say, like, getting a fucking 20-acre spread out in the fucking woods, pay $150,000 for that motherfucker, right, and then be able to do much more with your fucking money and be able to facilitate more of the community that helped get you to where the fuck you're at. I mean, like, you know what? Counterpoint's had a good point last week with going and getting the fucking old abandoned malls and building community around that. It'd be a great way to help solve homelessness. But you know what? No, we're just going to go waste our fucking money in Hollywood, right? And then fuck everybody else. Be like, God, give me more money. Just give me more money. I need more, I need more, right? I'm not going to do anything responsible with it except take care of me, right? And then leave everybody else with justifications like, oh, well, maybe he's using it to network with people or blah, blah, blah. No, that's just all a bunch of horse shit, right? And frankly, I don't even know how y'all are going to sit here and try to defend it tonight.
Amen, brother. We're going to throw it over to
Are we
Heemed
going
Out.
in order? Or is
Oh,
it
yeah,
like,
we're going in order.
Okay, all right. No, I'm gonna chill.
Send it over to
boy.
Heemed.
Love you, CTV.
Okay. So do I think Hasan's house is too big, and makes him a hypocrite? Probably not. I did the virtual tour of his house. And you can catch that on my YouTube if you want. And honestly, I thought it was like a reasonable, like nice, very nice house. I didn't think it was like an extravagant fucking mansion or anything like that. But I'm more interested in if there's a limit to his indulgence in capitalism that would make him hypocritical. For example, like if he had a yacht or a private jet, are these things like not luxuries? Are they compatible with a socialist world? If Hasan or anyone who makes money from this kind of rhetoric, from the kind of rhetoric that he espouses, bought a private jet for their own leisure travel, would that be hypocritical? People might come back and compare it to like Bernie Sanders using a private jet for travel, but Bernie Sanders was on the campaign trail and he needed to fly quickly from place to place. So I don't think that's comparable. It seems that like a lot of people, when this news came out, were ultra quick to jump to his defense. And I find it quite odd. So I just implore these people to like test themselves by pushing it to the extreme of luxury with items like yachts to see if there's a line for them or not. I personally think that once people reach a level of comfort in their lives, and they advocate so heavily for a movement that they should be a leader for that movement, And if you advocate for LGBTQ rights and you're Ellen DeGeneres, you should probably put your money towards LGBTQ causes. A lot of people like to shit on people like Destiny, for example, for various reasons, and I have my disagreements with him too, but the motherfucker believes in electoralism and he put his money where his mouth is and he went and campaigned door to door. If someone is poor, I understand having to sell out to capitalism to survive, but I personally think that there is some level of excess that even though I can admit Hasan's house doesn't reach that level, that there is a level. And I think that it would be interesting to have a discussion whether people think there is a level or no. Like, as long as he doesn't exploit people, he can have 10 private jets and it doesn't matter.
I do also want to say that I'm sorry I couldn't get Destiny from this. I'm sure he would have had amazing skills. The meth training is next level, honestly. Didn't expect it. It's a new juke out for all of us. We're going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
So my take on this is what you see from when the left get rich. When the left gets rich, this is exactly what you see. Hasan buys a $3 million house, and actually where he lives, the median house is worth $775,000. So his house is way above median. It's actually $2.25 million above median. If we're gonna talk about that, but you see Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders dogged on millionaires until he became a millionaire, and then he dogged on billionaires, and all the time he's got 3 houses. This is what you see when the left gets rich. They don't keep to their principles, and that's just how it happens. But to kind of end my opening statement, I demand a room in Hasan's house when I go to California. Because socialism. That's my house too.
Wonderful. I'm going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
We're really at this stage talking about houses. I could give two fucks what Hasan does with his money. Like, I don't understand why it's such a big rub in the bathtub, but maybe through this conversation we can find out more. This idea that the left gets corrupted by money and the right doesn't is some fucking horse shit. Like we have Republicans who don't give a shit about the plight of individuals in states like West Virginia all the way to Arizona. Like, you really think Floridians actually give a fuck about individuals at the political level? They don't give a shit. Like, if it drives the money, it drives the money. So I don't understand why we are acting like this is just a leftist phenomena, where when people expand slightly outside of their means, that like it's the same shit. Like, you get, let me know how you stay on your morals if you're a billionaire. Like, I'd love to see how you advocate for your community, but statistically none of us are going to get there. So like, why should I just don't. I wish I could give a fuck, but I could give the farthest of fucks. I mean, I guess we're going to argue about lefty versus righties and financial responsibility for an hour, but maybe we won't. Whatever. That's all I got for now.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So I'm going to start off by saying, basically, you know, as it relates to the degree of hypocrisy, I'm going to say there is a little bit of hypocrisy there, and I can explain that position. But I do also want to say, first off, just to the kind of the idea that this is a classic problem on the left. It's a thing that affects people with sort of moral framework across the board, though. And an example of this, a more prominent example, would actually be like Joel Osteen, for example, who's got a net worth of over $50 million. He's a conservative Christian. Is he living by what Jesus said to do? No, he's right wing. So it's a thing that happens on both sides, where you'll have that sort of excess, which might seem to contradict your held values. Now, as far as it relates to the commodification of housing, buying a $3 million house definitely is partaking in that. Now, you would say, well, buying any house under capitalism is partaking in that. Hasan, obviously, he's somebody who is for basically a progression towards a socialist economy, and under a socialist economy, there wouldn't be commodification of housing. However, he would say probably, well, you know, we're under capitalism right now, so he's going to buy his house. And I'll say this, I'm with what Brant said on this. You know, he worked his ass off. It's not like he didn't earn it. He definitely earned it. The issue here, though, is just that he's somebody who's against the commodification of housing, even though he would say, well, we're not there yet. He would say right now, tax the rich more. It just taxed me more, except that's not really what he's saying, though. He's also worn shirts like eat the rich, going beyond just mere taxation, talking about a post-capitalist system. And the reality, I did about an hour-long premiere on my channel today talking about this, is that socialism historically hasn't produced public housing that's anywhere near the level of house that he's living in. But I also said, as far as $3 million for a house goes, I do feel like he got ripped off. I looked at the house. It's a nice house, maybe 1.5 million or so. It really does go to how expensive West Hollywood is. If I had that kind of money, I wouldn't live in West Hollywood. So that's Hasan's personal choice. As far as it relates to the ultimate hypocrisy, it's a little bit hypocritical. I don't think it's ultimately that big a deal at the end of the day, though. But I do think that if you're somebody who's not just a social democrat, you're not just somebody who's, you know, for, say, the Scandinavian type system, I do think that it is a little bit hypocritical to spend that much money on partaking in the commodification of housing. Additionally, considering that even though you can argue that the work that he does is some of the least exploitative work out there, the production processes that went into producing that house involved, from a Marxist analysis, the exploitation of the proletariat to produce surplus value. So in that sense, it was contributing towards exploitation just in terms of the products. But, you know, he needs a house, and it is an expensive area. I'll grant him that. It's just a matter of where that line is. And honestly, that line is more for people in his community to kind of decide at that point. I would say to some extent it does cross a personal moral line, but I also think it's ridiculous how expensive housing is in that area. So thank you.
Okay. Now, I also want to say that if I do make the money, I will use it not to buy a house in Hollywood, but to build Castle Wolfenstein in West Virginia. I'm going to throw it over now to Trihex.
Yo. Well, first before I even start here, I want to say I'm very, very flattered to be here. Thanks again for the invite, Dylan. And I also want to give a special, I didn't get to Dylan kind of pre-formatted my intro here by talking about fitness, but I wanted to say I'm very flattered to be here with you today, Vaush. First time actually hanging out and kicking with you, but good to see you, man.
Oh, thank you. Likewise.
Yeah. So with that in mind here, my biggest issue with the whole discussion about is Hasan's house justified as a socialist advocate or self-described socialist, as people claim. I'm not sure which one it technically is here. Is honestly the conflation over whether or not is it possible to own a house of that level of wealth while still being a socialist or advocating for socialism. And the problem here is I feel like there's a big conflation between whether or not Hasan's merit of character is hypocritical for owning a house of this level of wealth, and whether or not can you even be a socialist if you own a house at this caliber of net worth. You know, can you legitimately own a nearly $3 million house and still be a socialist? Is the kind of the question there. And I feel like these two things get conflated so hard in the fanboy wars between, you know, hating Hasan and liking Hasan, that oftentimes I feel like a lot of people really lost the grasp over what even being socialist even means. And I feel like the fact that we couldn't get to that dialogue over Twitter was kind of like a huge problem. Now, with that, there are a couple points I would bring here. One, ultimately, my stance here is that like it's not hypocritical to own a house of that wealth, own a house of that caliber, because I feel like when anyone's looking for a house, ultimately you're looking at it in terms of function. And well, there's one of the reasons, right? We'll start with the function here. First thing is that like if you're a full-time streamer, the first cop out I usually hear is that, well, you can stream from anywhere. But in the reality here, if you do stream from anywhere, you're often stuck to the slavery of the monopoly ISPs here. So I don't know how the internet coverage is in California, but I think a pretty compelling argument would be here that you want to be wherever the Verizon Fios is or wherever the fiber optic internet is, because you don't want to be slave to Time Warner or, you know, Comcast or whoever shit-ass internet is being provided in most of the areas here. You want to be where it is. And I heard that, generally speaking, that the fiber internet, the Google Fiber tier internet, if you will here, dependable internet is only available like in the Hamptons and areas that are like really, really up there. Anyone in California probably can help me reiterate if I'm wrong on that or not. But also here, like the some people like Critical Thinking Veteran, for example, here are essentially opting to like backseat over how he spends his money. And it's interesting. I would hear like what I assume is a conservative argument here that like he's being hypocritical, but at the same time here you're open to like backseating or front seating over how a private business owner would spend their money, which is really interesting in that context to me. Also subjective over his preferences too is kind of weird. Moving on though, like the specific case criteria for Hasan having the house, like whether it be him housing his family or trying to put maybe a production studio in one of the bedrooms, like a full blown one that would be like way more, I don't know, like pro streamer or pro production value than having his like personal bedroom be that. I don't see the issue here with like if you can afford it, like why not? If the function is very strong there in terms of having an optimal location near an international airport while you already live in California where all the events happen anyway, as a full-time broadcaster that could possibly do more with your own production studio at that point if he wants to. I just don't see here where like if he was expanding a team and building like a streamer house, how different it is to like have a streamer house for like an esports org and Hasan having his like production headquarters also be where he happens to live. So I just see a lot of function and like getting what you want. And I feel like anyone here who was going to put a 30-year mortgage down was going to definitely go for a very specific criteria of house. And it's not been looking for a while. So I don't see it as insane. Just more reflective of how absolutely batshit insane the California market is comparatively. And of course, again, whenever people would say, okay, well, he shouldn't have got a $2.7 million, he shouldn't have gotten a $2.7 million house. He could have got like a $1 million or like a 1.5 mil. Again, it goes back to this like rationalization of, well, where's this arbitrary line between like where one can buy a house in California, but it can't be too extravagant. There's a very subjective line here over what extravagant really would be. And I can't really find I can't find anyone to like really pin that down to a definitive criteria other than what feels like a rooted jealousy or envy over like, I don't like Hasan here and I want a reason to not like him or whatever, just from what I observed so far here. And then finally, it's also really interesting too that some people also advocate here. It's my final point. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit long here. Percent of wealth to charity, as well as like, you know, that he must be completely transparent to validate advocating for socialism, or else he's like being hypocritical. I find that also really, really weird too, because like, okay, so now we have to have to be socialist, you must be completely, or socialist advocate, you must be completely transparent or very, very transparent to a very insane degree in order to promote socialist things while existing in a capitalist society. I don't know. It seems kind of weird.
Okay, we're gonna move it.
I yield.
Okay, we're gonna move it over to Vaush to wrap up the intros.
Yeah, so a few things. Yeah, I think this is dumb. I don't think it's hypocritical. I want to point out this isn't about defending Hasan. Dude's huge. He doesn't need defense. It's more about the general attitude because this type of argument is used against and within the left really, really often. First off, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that common discourse where a person will criticize the police and then another person will be like, well, good luck next time someone tries to murder you, as though there's some implicit hypocrisy behind the expression of like a broader critique of a system and also partaking in elements of that system. Now, of course, you're not just partaking when you're Hasan. Dude's rich, no getting around that. But I honest to God just don't care, you know? He is rich. His stream made him rich. A stream where he advocates left-leaning positions. He got a lot of money doing that. I don't expect him to throw it all in a pit and burn it. Would it be nice if he was philanthropic with that money? Yeah, for sure. It's always nice when we do things that are good. We all engage in little excesses from time to time. And when you're richer, those excesses become far, far larger. The problem, like, on my end with this is just that, like Trihex said, the line where you stop is completely arbitrary. Like, the implicit suggestion is that because of the way the system we live in works, if you become successful advocating for a political position, you'll probably become wealthy doing it. If you're a large streamer or YouTuber, you're going to accrue a lot of money doing those things. So the argument is that everyone can do this, but if you're left-leaning, there's an additional barrier you need to pass. You need to be philanthropic. Well, how philanthropic? Because depending on how good faith the people attacking you over this are, there might not be a line to that. You know, there are plenty of people in sort of the broader left community online who do donate money and do spend time doing this and direct action, and they still get these criticisms because they make more money than some of the people who criticize them from below. My argument here isn't that philanthropy isn't a good thing to do. It certainly is. It's just that this criticism foments an incredibly irresponsible attitude within the left. It essentially encourages everyone to form a circular firing squad where anytime anybody becomes a little more successful than the people around them, they get dogpiled by those who are prettier in their community, which is really weird. We should be happy when people who are left-leaning succeed, especially when they succeed because they're advocating for left-leaning positions. I can't imagine anything more useful for our movement. Imagine if we had canceled Marx because his money came from Engels, a socialist factory owner. Is it nice to not own a factory in the traditional autocratic manner of business ownership? Sure, absolutely. But I'm glad Marx got to write what he wrote, and I'm glad that nobody was around to convince him that his labors were fruitless because they were stemming from some fundamentally hypocritical way of looking at the world or dealing with life. I hope Hasan gets another 3 million house out of LA, some other place, you know, have fun with it. I just don't care because the attitude this ferments will always lead to pointless infighting. It doesn't actually produce any good results. Like, no utilitarian benefit is derived from it. Nothing actually changes. We just argue and accuse socialists of being worse than other people for not meeting standards defined by the non-socialists that nobody else has to meet. And we set the stage for, in the future, the same shit happening again. Sometimes justified, sometimes unjustified. If you want people to be philanthropic, this is not how you do it. So it seems to me it's more about the cancellation and the attacking people you didn't like beforehand than it is the trying to change behavior.
Okay.
Have you ever
So,
heard?
wait. Okay. So you're eager. I just want to say I'm going to be very strict with moderation today, or at least I'm going to attempt to be. So please do keep the rules in mind, because I'll be a lot quicker than mute, considering there's a lot of people here who are strong voices, to say the least. But it is now open to the floor. Good luck.
Have you ever heard the phrase?
One at a time.
Wait,
one at a time. Vaush was the last to talk, so I'll give it to Sprouts, and Sprout most likely disagrees directly with Vaush.
Okay. Have you ever heard, Vaush, have you ever heard the phrase, actions speak louder than words? Just a quick yes or no, whether you've heard that phrase or not.
That's what you were going to ask him?
No,
you interrupted the panel to ask him that?
Wait.
I've got more to say.
Have you heard that, Vaush, before? Is that the first time you've ever heard that?
I'm asking, is that the first?
That's news to
I just heard
me.
that before.
Like, come on, obviously you've heard
Okay.
We need to organize our priorities here.
Stop. Let's let Sprout finish this line of questioning before. Okay, Sprout.
Okay, So actions speak louder than words is something I truly believe in. If you're gonna say something just because you're just gonna say it and you do the exact opposite, then I say you're hypocritical because you're not even willing to back up your own words with your own actions. Now this person is in question, right? Hasan spent $2.25 million above the median average house. That is, the median house price is $775,000. He spent $2.25 million above it while he's talking about we should pay more in taxes. We should care about the homeless. I'm sure there's homeless in the city he lives in. We should do all these things, and we should stop Bezos. We should stop these evil corporation people and the way they spend their money. But when he gets to spend his money, however he likes it. I'm saying it's hypocritical of him to do that. And that is why I'm coming against Hasan for that, is because it's hypocritical and his actions are not meeting up with his words.
Well, his action is he became one of the largest leftists online and moved hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people left. That's an action I like to focus on. I don't give a fuck what he does with his money. As long as he's not spending it, paying bums to fight each other in some gladiatorial arena he builds in his basement.
I just feel like we're mixing up
wait.
subjective and objectivism here. You can argue about how you feel about how somebody spends their money. Objectively, you could also argue that arguing on his behalf, you could say this guy spends a lot of money in taxes. He's probably a major pillar of his community, stepping into that community. There's a lot of things that you could get involved on the objective point of view. Mixing in subjectivism and how you feel about how somebody is just basically backseat driving.
I want to say, by the way, if he backed off his positions, that would be something I'd be bothered by. If he was like, yeah, we should raise taxes, upper margin to 90%, and then he gets awful rich and he's like, actually, uppermost margin of 45% is enough. That, I think it's totally okay to attack a person over that, because that's a position being changed, not like you're just wealthy but saying the same stuff, which I'm okay with.
I feel like as far as it goes to the hypocrisy, though, it's worth flipping it, though, to say, if it was somebody like Joel Osteen, for example, who's a preacher who teaches the Bible, and obviously Jesus was like, you're better off abandoning all your wealth, otherwise you're not going to have a chance of making it to the kingdom of God. Yet he hoards $50 million. I think a lot of people that are kind of
tax-free.
I hate Joel Osteen. I think he's one of the biggest hypocrites.
We gotta let Kevin finish first.
I'm almost done. I was just making the point that I know it's different. I'm not comparing Osteen to Hasan. There's money difference there. There's also political difference there. All that I'm saying is that when I'm trying to figure out how I feel about these things, I usually try to say, well, what would be the reaction if it was a Christian conservative, for example? Anybody that's sort of professing a sort of moral worldview. And I know that Hasan's saying, well, you need systematic change, and he's just an individual actor. But for me personally, I've also, like in my life, decided against what I was originally going to go into. Originally, when I was younger, wanted to go into like loans and stuff, and then I got pilled on debt and realized like I don't feel comfortable pawning off debt on my compatriots, so I need to figure out a different career. You could say, well, there's somebody else who's going to do that job, but it's like I'd feel weird doing it if I'm doing a show that's anti the debt economy, So it's like at some point you do kind of have to live your values. And Hasan is somebody who's come out and said, basically eat the rich, that kind of stuff. You can debate over to what extent he's serious about that. I would just say, though, I've seen him have rhetoric before that's beyond simply taxation of the rich. He does want to move towards a post-commodification of housing economy. And so to go that far above the median, I could see some hypocrisy there. But as far as where's the line, I don't have an answer for you on that. I'm just saying if it was me personally, I'd feel a little weirded out doing that while having a message like that. That's just me.
And that would be you injecting your subjective take on it if you were to take it to that next level, for sure. Objectively, the guy probably pays a crap load in taxes. Subjectively would be mean saying, oh, he could go and he could spend $1 million on a house, 100 miles outside of LA, and then he could spend 2.25. Let me just backseat drive, and he could go invest in a firm, or he could give $20,000 away to 100 people's startups and help them get started. That would be me backseat driving. The guy earned it. His community paid it forward to him. He's been putting a lot of time and effort in, and to mix subjective with objectivism starts to blur the line of like really shifting the goalposts of what you believe in, because the guy has put in the work. He's put it, and that just because you have millions of dollars doesn't mean that you can still take part in what your belief system is. True hypocrisy would be, like you said, like a pastor claiming that they should be tax-free while preaching the teachings of Jesus Christ. That would be pure hypocrisy right there. I think churches should be taxed to some degree.
Awesome.
But I
Same
mean,
here. Same here.
yeah, most
Okay,
definitely.
so I don't know why Joel Osteen and
By the way,
churches-
one second, one second.
Besides-
Wait,
I've had my hand up for so long.
wait. Well, after Sprouts finish, I'm going to give it over to Heem. Heem's been waiting. I'll write CTV's name down. Continue.
Okay, so I don't know why Joel Osteen and churches are being brought up, unless it's because it's a commonly known fact that I'm an ordained minister. That's the only thing I can come to with bringing up Joel Osteen in response to my statement. I'm not a fan of Joel Osteen. I think he's one of the biggest hypocrites of the Christian community. This guy talks about let's help the poor, and he drives a fucking Lamborghini, and then he doesn't open up the church when they need housing and stuff like that for people to come in and live in the church. I think he's I've talked openly about Joel Osteen, the mistakes he's made. I am no fan of Joel Osteen's. So I'm kind of confused on how that's even close.
Yeah,
to
when
what
I
was
speak,
saying.
when I speak of Joel Osteen, I
wait,
speak purely
Brant,
individually.
Brant,
Sorry, my bad.
When I talk, nobody else talks. Okay, that's my only warning for everybody. So, I'm gonna give it over to Heem next.
Thank you. Okay, so I understand a lot of what Trihex and Vaush said. Trihex, you brought up some great points about like making sure you have the good internet connection and like being around near the airport. Completely understand that. But can you say that he needs to have a pool, or can we say that that's probably a luxury? And then I have more questions after.
What is it relevant?
Well, because the whole point is
we-
the reason that I bring this up is because, in my opinion, in a socialist world, probably everyone won't be having a pool. Like, there's some things that are okay. So let me backtrack. Do you think there's a level of luxury for a socialist that can be hypocritical? Like, if he owned yachts and he like. Yeah, like I just want to know if there's a line at all.
Is anti-wealth. I mean, so in a social society, you would definitely have like public affordable housing, and if you were successful enough economically, you'd be able to afford going above public affordable housing and getting like what we now know in USA as like nice houses in general.
Okay,
So like
but
whenever you wouldn't you wouldn't be stuck in like renter hell essentially. So like your question of like how many amenities are like overkill for a social society to me are not really relevant to the bigger picture of what socialism actually is.
Oh, I completely agree. But this is the discussion topic we're having, right? Like, if we're talking about affordable housing, of course, I'm going to agree with you. If we're talking about systemic change, of course. But the topic at hand is like, is Hasan a hypocrite, right? Like, I understand you guys are saying, I don't care how he spends his money. And to be honest, I don't really care either. But the point of this discussion is he a hypocrite?
Counter your question with a question then.
Okay.
So whether or not the house is a pool or not, a pool would raise the property value of the house and it'll retain more value in that. If you have like a chimney, if you have a guest house, if you have a pool, the more shit your house has, the better value it's going to retain on the appraisal. This is just like house buying 101.
Sure, of course.
Maybe I don't give a shit about the house or about the pool, but if the pool gives me more value, okay, fuck it, I'll get it,
Okay,
so
to clarify,
that bad? Does that make me shop wise? I'm not a socialist anymore?
No. So just to clarify, you don't think there's any limit to the amount of wealth that someone can have while being a socialist?
As long as the wealth was accumulated without the exploitation, often synonymous with capital society practices and businesses. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I wanted to clear up. Okay, I disagree with that. Wait. Sorry, I have one more thing.
I would actually love to hear you elaborate on that. Then I'd love to hear like what.
Yeah, I think that like you can't, in order to live in a socialist world, like a proper socialist society, you probably wouldn't have individual ownership of yachts, because in order to have that much of a discrepancy between wealth, where one person is able to afford a $20 million yacht, they must have exploited their way to get to the top. No one can get to the top to that excessive level of wealth without exploiting people below them. That's what I think.
I don't think that luxury is in and of itself objectionable. I mean, I don't like that'd be like saying that George Washington and the rest of the founding fathers were hypocrites for founding a liberal democracy because they were servants of the crown.
Would it not?
Yeah, CTV
do this. Fundamentally, I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying luxuries that might not be available in a more equitable society. It's about what you do to achieve it and how you use that wealth and your privilege and what you do generally with your life. But the luxury itself in a bubble isn't really the thing that I find problematic.
Okay, wait, sorry.
I don't get to elaborate either, but okay.
No, I gotta hand it over to CTV. He hasn't talked yet this topic, and he did raise his hand, so I want to throw it to CTV. He's just gonna have to grab it again in the future. Trust me, you have another chance. CTV.
Yeah, I think the luxury thing is more subjective than objective, but that's how I would view it. The reality of the present situation is that Hasan has built an entire platform on giving people hope that socialism is the way to solve the foreseen problems of the future. Because of that, he was able to bring in a lot of money based upon capitalism in a world that allows wealth to be centered in such an individual and for them not to use what they brought in a way to help their own community would be antithetical to the message that brought in the money in the first place inside the capitalist system. So then you just have to sit here and ask yourself, in a socialist system like Dr. Heem is talking about, right? Would you actually be able to center that kind of wealth around one individual that would allow them to be able to purchase a $3 million home? More than likely not, right?
And
I
also
would say probably dead set against it. The only way that you get to a situation like that is in a capitalist system. So then like that right there is what becomes disingenuous about the conversation, because as soon as someone is able to use the capitalist system through preaching of socialist values to exploit the people that donated to the cause and to see the money get used in that way is simply just a slap in the face of the people that supported the streamer to begin with.
CTV,
can I just
do
say
you
one
think that it's possible to enter into a socialist society without the participation of capitalism to get there? Currently in the United States.
No.
Then
But what happens
I
when
don't know,
people
tell you.
willingly give their money? What happens when
Yeah.
people willingly give their money to you? These people implicitly, through implicit contract, people are willingly giving their money to Hasan. They're choosing to support his platform. They're choosing to
wasn't the
take part
question,
in his content. But what I'm saying is, there's
That wasn't
no
the question, though.
But there's no
Joe, what was your
abuse of the
question?
proletariat. There's no abuse of the proletariat.
Joe,
in
what was
that
your
if
question?
People are
I'm
providing.
saying,
to you.
Joe.
is it possible to not participate in capitalism to reach socialist goals? In
I
the
mean,
you
that
could,
might
United
solve
you
States?
could have a
it's
revolution. You
not-
could have a revolution. Why not?
It's in this country, no, right? Unless you have a community that, say, you get a bunch of people that made their own hand tools, right, or produced their own fucking hand tools, went out into the woods and built an entire community based off of what was there on the land. Anything else is going to be them making contracts to bring lumber in, or contracting hours for a bulldozer to clear the fucking land, or whatever the case is. And the system here is capitalist, right? And it's capitalist because it allows individuals to be able to choose who they do business with, right? So because of that, it's not forced on anybody, which under a socialist governmental system it would be forced, and that's
Put a
where
pin in that.
that's where the difference fucking comes in the conversation. Whether it's free or whether it's controlled, right? And in the system that is being preached through socialism, it is very much so taking from others and giving it to others, right? At the discretion of the government.
But we got to understand that individuals, we're not these like tried and true individuals of like the straight and narrow in terms of our advocacy for its policies. So then the follow-up question I would have is, what has Hasan articulated as it regards to housing? Oh Jesus Christ, that silence. This is gonna be fun.
Right. Who watches
But he has
Hasan?
that about landlords and whatnot, right?
It's already been said this panel, so I just don't understand why you're bothering to ask the question again.
The real
Vaush,
question.
Vaush, I know you were gonna. Vaush,
Right?
I know you were
Matter
gonna
of fact, I
speak.
think you said it, right? So why do
What?
that, Joe?
Wait, do what?
Why try to force someone to repeat themselves? They've already said it. The people want to see a show, right? They don't want to see the same shit get rehashed.
So wait,
Let's go.
but it's very important. Like, okay, so are we arguing about the socialism that we're trying to define within this panel as it relates to housing, or the socialism as Hasan defines it as it relates to housing? Like,
Well, I
those are
think
two
it's about
totally different
consumerism.
conversations.
It's about
What are we
consumerism, not just
accomplishing either
housing.
way?
I'm just
Yeah.
arguing
Okay,
super
okay.
critical.
It's getting a little off the rails here. So I'm gonna go in this order. So Brant did raise their hand, but Brant, did you address what you were saying earlier when you raised your hand when you responded to CTV?
Yeah,
or was
but,
that
I mean, can I just rehash it really quick?
okay, rehash it, and we'll probably have
Super
a
quick.
response to that, and then I gotta throw it over
For sure.
to Heem because Heem's been wanting to get in for a
People
little bit.
people willingly are giving their money to Hasan, right? He's spending the money how he wants to. He's participating in basically what I call the remnants of socialism, which is taxation. He's paying taxes on it. He hasn't exploited any tax loopholes. He's probably very transparent with his taxes that he pays. And I don't think that, I mean, even though I'm not for socialism, I'm not necessarily saying that he has in any way faltered from what he believes in. Does that mean he's not participating in capitalism? He is. He's on a website that allows him to utilize that, but he's not exploiting the proletariat to get to where he's at. People are willingly giving their money to him.
No one's saying he's exploiting. We're talking about consumerism. Consumerism and capitalism are like this. So we're talking about, is there a level of consumerism? Now, before I pass it over to Vaush, because I know he wanted to jump in, I want to ask you, you were saying about philanthropy, right? You were saying philanthropy is good if people choose to do it, right? And by the way, bravo to you for what you did for the Palestinian people. Fucking unreal work, okay?
Thank you.
I agree that philanthropy is great. But let's say Hasan is now 30, 40 years into streaming and pushing socialist policies, but like, and now he's, you know, loaded with cash, but he never once tried to open a co-op coffee shop or do anything or open like a community housing or anything like that. Would you still say that like, no, this is perfectly fine, he can spend his money how, like if someone believes that these systems work, workplace co-ops, should they not put in the effort to try to get some of these things off the ground, I guess?
To be clear, I always think it's good when they do, you know?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But
yeah,
should they? Or are they hypocritical if they don't?
It's a matter of what we're expected to do. And I want to say that if he was some errantly wealthy, 100 million, whatever, you know, then I would like him to put his money towards that. And I think it'd be a fair criticism, but not one of hypocrisy, because that's a criticism that I would levy at any wealthy person. I don't think that a person's obligation to do good to society is magnified because they happen to be left-leaning. I would make the same criticism of him that I would of any other wealthy person in such a position. But holistically, I would recognize that even if he was miserly and Scrooge-like with his money, ultimately, if he made that much money advocating for socialism, he probably got tens, hundreds of millions of people listening. And that's something that I would be more keen to focus on than trying to take him down as a hypocrite.
Okay, so the reason that I say
I want to let
the reason that I say it's the reason that I say it's hypocrisy versus I agree with you, by the way, that's a criticism we can levy at Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. And if Hasan ever reaches that level, we could levy that criticism to him as well. I agree. The reason that it's hypocrisy is because Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are not advocating for socialism, whereas he is. That's the reason that I say it's hypocrisy. You're not only existing within the system that you criticize, you're literally the top 0.x%. Right? That would be the hypocrisy in it.
What you're describing here just doesn't really have a material effect on anything. If you're a person and you have wealth, your political beliefs don't bear any weight on the good that your money could bring if you invested
Morally,
in
they
more
should.
philanthropic with it.
Yeah, morally, they should.
Well, hold on.
Cool,
Wait. I mean, to me, like, we can be subjective about this, but to me, this is just like an utterly flaccid criticism. Criticisms of hypocrisy have always been weaker than criticisms of actual ideology, which is why so often that's what we go to when we attack socialists. It's what they did with Bernie back during the 2016 primaries as well in 2020. It just seems to be like an easy get because the consequence of what we're talking about right now is that socialists, when they're public advocates, will always be held to a much higher standard than everyone else. They must always be more philanthropic. They must be more moral. They must check and grade everything they do to a higher standard. And while all those things are good, the practical consequence is that this weakens left advocacy. It foments infighting and it gives the outside easier attacks on us. I think it's okay to ask more of socialist figures, but when doing so under the veil of hypocrisy, all you're really doing is making it harder for any socialist or left-leaning person in general.
So
can I ask you
wait a second.
Wait. I didn't even hear the end of a sentence. Finish the sentence quick, Vaush.
It makes it harder for us to get what we want done.
Okay.
Can I ask one last follow-up,
You
please?
just got like two.
Last one, I promise. It's a yes or no.
Okay, if it's a yes or no, then I'll let the yes or no go.
Okay. I would love to just yes or no, guys. Do you think that Joel Osteen is a hypocrite?
Yes.
Yes.
No. I want Trihex and Vaush to answer.
In what context? A hypocrite?
A hypocrite in that he's hoarding fucking millions of dollars while preaching the word of Jesus. Jesus would never approve of hoarding millions of dollars. That's what makes him a hypocrite. So would you say he's a hypocrite?
Not necessarily. It depends on his denomination.
The Christian's essentialist critique of hoarding of wealth is different from a socialist critique of the systemic power that wealth can hold. If Hasan was like, having wealth makes you evil, which is, by the way, not something here I have said, or if he has said that, that was a remarkably stupid thing to say, then I would call that hypocritical, though I still think hypocrisy is a weak criticism fundamentally. But since he hasn't said that, I hope, then that it doesn't remain hypocritical in the way the wealthy, like a pastor, accumulating money might.
Okay, so I got. Wait. I'm gonna go in order here. So we're gonna go CTV, Sprout, then Kevin. There was gonna be like some length between that because people are gonna respond to people's points. All right, Joe, down too. CTV.
Yeah, I'm not even on the list.
So, like, I keep hearing Vaush say philanthropic, right? Like, he just found this word in a $10 dictionary yesterday and decided he's going to use it today, right? So, like, dude, I just looked up the word because it really is a $10 word, right? It just basically means charity, right? Actuated by a desire to do good to one's fellows, right? So you keep using this word, but this word is false when in association with Hasan, right? And the purchase of a $3 million mansion, right? It just is, right? Because there's nothing about, you know, a desire to do good by one's fellows, right? Unless it's just meaning like, you know, Hasan's immediate friend group, then sure, they're all going to receive a benefit of their friend buying $1 million fucking mansion.
No, I don't think that was philanthropic. Buying the house wasn't philanthropic. He could have spent the money philanthropically otherwise, but that house was for him.
Right. So then we're just speculation on what his possible expenditures were, even though we know what the bulk of his money went to. Right. So philanthropic would just be like a bad word to use here. And we'll just move on from that. So from here, like the entire advocation of your point tonight seems to be a little bit more self-serving because you yourself, Vaush, can see somebody like Hasan and see the success and he's got a $3 million house and man,
yes, I love having money. Absolutely,
I'm almost there, right? So if I just keep this grift going just a little bit longer and a little bit harder, I'll be able to have a mansion of my own, and that's just right there.
Buy a bigger house.
Yeah.
What makes you think?
See?
Hold on, CTV. What makes you think Vaush doesn't have a mansion right now?
True.
Yeah, the reality here is though, and that's
you
where
think I use $10 dictionaries, CTV?
And that's where well, yeah, I mean, like I shouldn't really put you on that. It's more like a $2 one, right? So you'll get to the $10 one sometime.
Anyway, this could easily.
So like in reality, hold on.
Let's let CTV finish his point wherever he's going.
Yeah, so like the reality here is that the entire argument that you're trying to come up with in order to defend Hasan only appears to be self-serving, whether you would think that it is or not. It doesn't really matter how you argue. The reality is that this young man came into a lot of money, and you say working hard, but is streaming really like all that hard work, or is it really just a lot of commitment?
No, it is hard
really
work.
Is it really just a lot? Hold on, is it really just a lot of commitment? Because is it out there sweating your ass off in the sun, digging a fucking ditch? Is it being out there fucking
different type
in a war
labor.
zone? Right, the reality.
It's a different
Wait, guys. Okay. When more than one person talks at the same time, we don't get double the information. I can't hear anything, so we gotta let CTV finish. CTV, finish your. Keep telling me about the gravediggers.
I'm trying, right? So when you say hard work, hard is the subjective word in that sentence, and then everybody can go, oh, well, I work hard being a video gamer, versus like, do you think that's on the same level as somebody that's out there digging the ditch? If it is, I don't think so, right? So
that's unfair to both professions.
Hard is difficulty.
The core of what I'm trying to get to with all of this is that it doesn't really matter how you try to defend Hasan. The reality of the situation is that he was preaching socialist ideology and continues to do that somewhat, right? And then anyone that is underneath him that is coming up this socialist ladder that now sees that, a $3 million mansion is actually possible by doing this. Why not keep doing this fucking thing? So then, like, here comes the justification from people that are all below the fucking chain of wealth, if you will, right, with the level that they can achieve. So they're going to continue justifying who they see as the top dog on their side, all the dumb shit that they do once they get there. That's the only thing that they have, because that's how deep the fucking grift goes.
Okay, wait. A lot of people want to respond to that, right? So raise your hand if you want to respond to that. I'll throw it to whoever talked the least. Joe and Kevin and Brant have probably talked the least, so I'm going to throw it first to Joe, because he's next on the list, besides Sprout. Joe.
CTV, just so I'm understanding what you're saying, because I'm a little lost. Are you suggesting that by Hasan advocating for the way that he advocates, and the fact that he now potentially made a down payment on a mansion or whatever you want to call it, that's creating a false sense that people can do the same profession that he does in order to achieve that? I'm really lost in what you're trying to say.
Well, I guess maybe the question here for me is, right, is that if you see someone be able to achieve something else, whether it's riding a bicycle, right, or driving a car, if you see someone else do it, do you sit there and go, oh, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that? Or do you yourself go, if that motherfucker can do it, I can do it, right?
I would never.
And that comes down to individual mentality. So then the question then gets shot right back at you, Joe. Which one are you?
Which one am I? What?
Real quick.
Like, I'll never in a million years be Julian Bliss. Never in a million years will I be Charlie Neidick. Like, these are clarinetists that I look up to and consider like in the top tier of the profession. Never have I ever in a million years thought that I could be at the same level as them, because I can't be them. I can only be the best version of myself. So I would never like look towards people who are better
I'm
than
not
me in my
asking you to be
profession.
somebody else. I'm
let's let him
asking
finish
if you
though.
can achieve that.
Wait.
No,
Cheater,
because you
gotta let him
can't.
finish.
Like none of like
How
I
can you
can't
not?
achieve
Wait.
because I am not Charlie Neidick. I am not Julian Bliss. I can only be Joe Lewis.
That
So I
doesn't
can
mean-
never
but
be, and I can never be them. I can only be me. So the only thing I can do is be the best version of myself.
Yeah, but the reality
all I
there
strive
is that
for.
we're just trying to achieve a goal, right? That was the entire point with the analogy, is achieving the goal, riding the bicycle, right? Driving the car, being able to buy a $3 million mansion, right? It's the goal. It ain't got a damn thing to do with the individual. It's like, if that person can do it, I can do it. And if you really wanted to be the best clarinetist, by God, you need to get that wood right there on the tongue, brother, and just start,
I practice
keep it going.
I practice more than you probably have worked your entire professional career.
Wow.
And
Wow.
to be
Bro.
very clear of that, even with the
Wow.
work that I put in, I still understand and recognize that I can still only be the best version of myself. I'm never trying to be the best clarinetist. I'm never trying to be the best saxophonist. Those are nebulous goals.
Right, but
and
you're
those
not trying for it. It doesn't mean that it's not achievable.
No, it's not achievable to be
Because
the
you're not
best.
trying for it.
No, that's so stupid, CTV, and
Is
you know
it?
that's dumb.
How do you know it's
that's
not?
dumb. You know that's a dumb
Everything is
take.
possible if you want it.
This
Okay.
isn't fucking Disney, bro. Like I don't know. God
Yeah.
damn it, man.
I think we're way off point
Okay,
now.
So we're getting
Like,
a
way
little.
off
We are getting a
point.
little point. So I'm gonna go back to the list here. Next was going to be Sprout.
Okay. So I don't understand. So Vaush, you keep talking about how this isn't hypocritical, and hypocritical is a lame excuse at trying to come at the left. Hasan has consistently gone about saying that he wants the socialist agenda. He wants all this kind of stuff. And when he finally gets money, that's not what he does. It's a complete.
What does
it's
he
a
do?
Complete, I mean, he buys a $3 million house.
Well, what was his agenda?
Well, his agenda was to create a socialist country in which the people who work for the company own the company, and that everyone is paid close to around the same wage. These are things that he said. He's also said eat the
Who
rich.
said this?
He said all these things. Hasan.
Wait,
So,
Hasan said
wanting
this.
to
Can
have-
you quantify that? Like exactly what he said?
I just want to know the link between.
Let me just rewatch all his fucking VODs, Joe, and I'll give you a
You're the one
timestamp
who's
when I find
saying that
something.
that's what he said, and then if
Let
you
me just
can't
let me
quantify
just go to Hasan's Twitch, and I would just give you timestamps, and we'll spend the rest of this conversation, and I'll just keep giving you.
I mean, if you did
timestamps.
your homework for the panel, maybe you'd be able to quantify that claim. But you can
I
keep
just
going.
want to say, I just want to know where the link is between spending your money on a big old house and being a socialist, and where exactly the line between those two is cut. Because if the argument for hypocrisy is anytime you believe something should be done, but then you spend money on luxuries, that makes you a hypocrite, that would make pretty much everyone in America a hypocrite to varying extents. All the conservatives who complain about like veterans care, well, if you've got money and you ain't putting it towards that, then sorry, buddy, you're a hypocrite. All the libs who care about homeless folk and you ain't
Wait,
giving
but-
any money to that. No, hold on. If you were
Socialism isn't that though.
But they
depending on how-
advocate for pulling themselves up by the
Hold on.
bootstrap.
depending on how much money you have, essentially anyone with any political ideology would be a hypocrite, because everyone who has money spends some of it on luxury goods, unless we're literally talking about like actual monks, which, hey, God bless them. They're doing wonderful work. This hypocrisy criticism is really toothless. Why don't we just focus on the actual things done and the effects those things have? CRT's rant may have been incoherent, but at least he was talking about the impact behavior has on an audience. That's more realistic and reality-oriented than CRT, critical...
You call him CRT.
ETV.
CRT. It's sorry,
Got an
it's on my mind a lot lately. Sorry, you know
CTV.
what I'm saying. CTV, yes. Yeah, just I don't get the obsession with the hypocrisy. Like, why don't we talk about the ideas? You know,
Because
if
the
you want, we can move to the next-
the idea
if
that
you
he's
want,
gonna-
we can move to the next
there's
topic.
two people
Wait.
talking at
The to-
once, so I'm gonna let
Wait,
Sprout do
sorry.
it. Since wait, I'm gonna let Sprout do it because Sprout
Okay.
was the person
Okay.
who put forward the question. I'm gonna write CTV's name down. After it's Kevin, Trihex, Brant, then CTV on the list. So Sprout, finish up your line of questioning.
Okay, so the idea when I say it's hypocritical, it's because it is hypocritical. He says one thing, then does another. And this is a moral flaw. We point out moral flaws in people all the time. I spent 4 years of my life listening to people tell me Donald Trump's moral flaws. Okay, so please don't tell me the left doesn't try and point out moral flaws. And when they say they're gonna do something, and they do something else. So that does happen.
Don't
We
you
can call
say
it. We can
things
call
and
it.
then do
Yeah,
something
I'm a hypocrite sometimes. Yeah, when I am hypocritical, I actually change it, or I try to do whatever I can to actually not be hypocritical.
You have an
and
example?
this whole stream was started off by Dylan congratulating me because I said that I was going to get the vaccine when it got FDA approved. It got FDA approved. The same day it got FDA approved, I went and got the vaccine. That is
So
not-
do you have an
that is
example in
not
a
hypocritical.
situation that you were
Well,
that
I
you were
just wanna say-
hypocritical?
Wait, that's
The-
not
like you have a-
hypocrisy.
The thing
Example
that
of
I don't understand is that you're a conservative, right, or a right libertarian?
I'm a constitutionalist conservative. Yes.
Constitutionalist conservative, yet you bought headphones. So you're saying one thing, but then you're doing another.
What did I say that said I couldn't buy headphones? What did I
I don't
say that
know.
said I
When
couldn't?
did Hassan say you can't spend money on luxury goods?
The hell
I
does that
mean,
have to do with?
I talk about people pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. I talk about if you work hard, you can make money. I talk about if you work hard, you can get where you want. It just takes work. It takes effort. It
So
takes.
do
it takes the
you work
willingness
hard
to
and
be
make
there.
money?
Yes, I work hard and I make money. Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Vaush,
so,
Vaush, wait, hang on.
Wait.
Vaush, you
Okay,
haven't
but then I
seen
gotta go back to
clips
the list.
of Hasan shitting on people for having sick houses, saying how do people have so much money?
Yeah,
Why do or shitting on Jeff Bezos for wasting his money going to space?
Yeah, I shit on people who watch anime, white people and guys all the time too. But I don't
Okay.
think it's a substantive hypocrisy of my. I don't think it's a substantive.
But
Like,
you're
element
not
of hypocrisy
advocating
in
for the
my-
opposite of whatever it was you just said, right?
No, I
Whatever-
advocate
what
people
example-
not watch anime, but I still watch anime.
Okay, so that would make you a hypocrite.
Well, sure. I mean, you can make that argument, but does it have any like substantive relation? By the way,
No,
this
listen,
we're-
I
we're-
agree with
wait,
you
really
that-
quick, really quick. Wait,
Wait,
hold
go
on.
ahead,
I think I
sorry,
may have
go ahead.
accidentally.
I know.
accidentally-
I'm about to say
hold
some
on.
shit. Please
Wait,
let me
hold
step back
on.
out of
Let
it.
him talk. Let him
Hold
talk.
on.
Let him
Wait,
finish.
I
We gotta let
accidentally
Vaush finish.
conceded. I accidentally conceded something, and that was the impression that Hassan has explicitly said that it's unethical for wealthy people to spend money on luxury goods, which to my knowledge, he hasn't said that. With my reductive analogy there, I may have implied that. That wasn't my goal. The point that I'm making here is that I think you can say stuff like, eat the rich, fuck Bezos, but then go ahead and make a lot of money being a socialist streamer and then spending that money on a nice house. I just don't fundamentally think there's like a break in the ideology there, you know?
Okay, so we
No,
have to.
no.
We have to. I want to go back down to this list. CTV, you are on the list. Don't worry. But Kevin has been waiting very patiently.
Okay, yeah, thank you,
Kevin.
Dylan. So I got a couple points here. The first one I wanted to address what Critically Thinking Veteran said about, is it hard work essentially? And the fact of the matter is that there are different sectors of the economy that do different work, which is all essentially, if you're able to do it and put food on the table, there is demand for that work. You're fulfilling a need in the economy, basically. And so what Hasan does, there is demand for. He does provide a service in that regard, just as a ditch digger would as well, if there's demand for it. I think the thing that's worth noting here is, well, is it as equally hard? Well, one is more physically hard, but there's a lot of research that goes into streaming. Now, I haven't watched Hasan streams on Twitch, but I used to watch him because I used to watch the Young Turks. I used to watch the Young Turks, like unironically, basically every day up until like 2016, 2017. So I've seen Hasan over there and everything. And he does work hard. To my knowledge, he streams about 10 hours a day, roughly 8 to 10 hours a day. That is work. There's research that goes into that. I stream every day. It's not necessarily easy. There are other jobs that are more difficult, but at the same time, it is still work, and people are willing to support him to do it. There's demand for it. People are obviously entertained by it. So it is work. My only issue, I guess, there was just about the profession of different values. If you're going to profess different goals, to what extent might it be a little bit hypocritical? And that leads me to my second point, which is that I wanted to answer Joe Lewis just about asking, well, what are Hasan's views on housing?
Can I
And
address that before you do that, though? Since you addressed me there.
Okay. Okay.
It's up to you,
Yeah,
Kevin. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, specifically, that's why I said I put the preface on the word hard, right? Like, it's not that it's not work. Of course, it's work, right? The preface there was the difference in contrast between the physicality versus the mental work, right? So that was
but
why.
I stream every day. It is hard work,
right.
though. Like,
I'm
it
just
is
making
hard.
yeah, that's why I'm just prefacing in what you said, because you agreed ultimately that one was more physical, one was mental, but that's why the preface was on the word hard right there. And then like trying to compare like the ditch digger to what Hasan was doing streaming would be disingenuous from the start.
But CTV, can
That's
you
what I
admit that you
said.
could say that? Can you admit that you can say that there's a context where somebody could describe a math test as hard and that be accurate, even though they didn't lift boulders or something, right?
Well, I
Like-
think ultimately the words hard is going to be subjective to the individual because it's
Yes.
going to depend on how hard it is that they actually like how much effort did they actually have to put in, because there are people out there that have to study for weeks on end to get ready for a test versus someone that comes in there, does a little bit of study
Yeah.
the night before, and they go in and they fucking ace that shit. Right.
No, I got you there, and there are different degrees of your starting point. And I think one thing that's worth mentioning in all this about Hasan, not to take away from the effort that he's put in and the commitment and the consistency that he's put in, but it is worth noting, and people bring this up as well, that basically he did start in that position because of the opportunities that were given to him by his uncle Cenk. But that's true for a lot of people, though. Like a lot of my subscribers and stuff are a credit to Spooky Nukies. There's subscribers to my channel that found me from Dylan Burns. Networking is obviously a part of making it big and streaming and all that kind of stuff. And that can determine your kind of starting point. So did Hasan start from a higher sort of starting point compared to other people in the industry? A lot of them, for sure. Does it mean that what he does in terms of streaming isn't hard work to do that 8 hours, 9 hours a day or whatever? It is. It's not. I would argue, and I've worked at McDonald's before, for example. I would say that streaming is actually harder than working at McDonald's. Just in terms of the task of it, because you don't have to do research. Once you've done it for a little while, you know what you're doing. You know what you're making, a burger or whatever. Whereas each stream has to be new content, otherwise people aren't going to watch it. And so there's that element to it where it's challenging in a different sort of process. Now you can talk about financial; it's easier for him, sure, but it's still work. So I've got criticism. I also got some defense of Hasan here. I think though. And to answer Joe Lewis, because I did want to answer Joe Lewis' question about the commodification or what's his view on housing. My understanding is that Hasan Piker does want to move towards a system level decommodification of housing under a socialist system in which workers own the means of production. And so now he'll say that that's a systematic change and that an individual can't make a difference in that. I would argue, and you could say it's subjective, but I would argue that you should still try then to live within some degree of not necessarily modesty or whatnot, but just that recognize that there is exploitation that does go into consumption as well. And so you could say, well, Hasan doesn't necessarily get exploitation in terms of labor from him, because now I don't know, I can't comment on this, how much he pays his editors or whatever. He may well be drawing surplus value from them too, but I would argue it's a voluntary exchange. But again, that's a capitalist sort of argument. I would say, though, on the point about the extent to which there is exploitation involved here, it's more about, and I guess there's a question for the panel.
We need to kind of wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah. Does the panel think that there can be exploitation in consumption? So if you buy a yacht or you buy a mansion, the people that produce that product, is there exploitation there? Even if you didn't hire them directly, is there exploitation there?
Okay, we need to go back down the list because we're going to be wrapping up this topic soon. We have Trihex, Brant, and then CTV, then we're going to do ending statements. Trihex?
Yeah. All right, so I'll answer this question real quick here. In short, if in a capitalist society where you're able to outsource and not have direct control over the means of the labor to able to produce the goods, ultimately, if things are not being produced through unions and ethically produced by paying people like living wages, it's kind of hard. Yeah, not really able to really buy a yacht without entirely knowing exactly whether or not you can be exploit free. But that's the pain of living in a capitalist society where we don't have those regulations to protect those people, to make sure that things you could buy could be exploit free. Anyways, that's addressing your point at the end there. But moving on here, I got two things for you here real quick about this, and it comes back here to the whole value of Hasan's platform. This is a moderately subjective take here, but ultimately, I still feel there's a lot of like animosity over Hasan purchasing the house. Clearly here and on the panel, it's a very divisive one. And I would say here, like in comparison here, if you view Hasan as like a small business owner because he owns his own, he's definitely has his own LLC and definitely is like, able to like, expend on behalf of the business while he generates money on his like stream and whatnot. A small business owner is definitely, I don't think it's unethical to be able to spend on expenses to like, reinvest into your business, right? You want to buy, if you're like a restaurant owner and you buy like new kitchen equipment, industrial kitchenware and whatnot, etc. So in that context here, Hasan buying a house where he can do more at his headquarters and invite people over and build a big production studio and whatnot to make it look way more official if he wanted to, hypothetically, doesn't seem too unjustified to me, especially given that the platform he's on here has most certainly done some definitive value for what he advocates for, including things like de-radicalizing people who potentially may have been still on the MAGA train and want to do another insurrection. Definitely getting people educated here over whether or not they're going to, anti-vax or not. And this is not me dick riding Hasan. This is me just bringing up the definitives that have certainly happened in his community at this point, given his like size and volume. And then also the second point here being that there's a lot of attacks here over. I don't know if Hasan said tax the rich. I know he's worn the AOC shirt, tax the rich or eat the rich or whatever it's called here. And I want to reinforce here a point that generally speaking, the tax the rich, eat the rich catchphrase here is usually more fixated on the grotesque levels of exploitation of wealth accumulation, which usually points to billionaires. I'm talking about people like, like Jeff Bezos, like Michael Bloomberg, $200 billion net worth, Bloomberg, $60 billion net worth, Bill Gates and the Koch brothers, where you have so much wealth, it's obscene. It's typically impossible to even spend it all in one day. And you have so much wealth that you with the fact that in this country, money is free speech, essentially, you can just buy your way into power and be held completely unaccountable above everything. That is where, it's just broken down society, in my opinion. But it's like,
Okay.
what I want to get to right there.
So we're going to throw it over to Brant.
Yeah, so going back to what CTV was saying a second ago about streaming not being hard, that's purely subjective. And you'd already kind of reiterated that you wanted to clarify, saying that when you said hard, you thought it was subjective. But I mean, there are things that I can do, others will never be able to do. There are things that others can do that I'll never be able to do. The word hard is technical proficiency in how difficult something is. So I might be physically built to be able to do things better than others. I might be mentally built to solve math problems or be a coder or a programmer to do things better than others. Streaming is definitely a difficult job. In the last 13 months, I've streamed 4,500 hours to try to build myself up on this platform, trying my absolute best, putting 10 to 12, sometimes 15, 24, 48, sometimes 72-hour streams. Trying to bring people basically what I consider my passion. I could try every day, like you're saying, oh, I can be just like that motherfucker. I could try my absolute best, and I will never be one iota of the impact that some of the content creators on here are, with maybe a fraction of said effort or difficulty in what it is that they're doing. I think when you say something isn't hard, you're severely diminishing either the effort that others put in or the luck that others, the miracle mix to success that others may have found in achieving said success. So I think that's very, very dismissive to say that streaming isn't hard, because there are people out here that are putting different types of effort into different genres, talking about different things. Some people are so good at Call of Duty, I'll never be as good as them. There's some people that are proficient in being able to articulate a platform and be able to reach an audience and win people over to their side. And I mean, that's just purely subjective. And like I said, it's just purely, diminishing the effort that some put in, and then, the lack of effort that some people may have had to put in.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up with CTV.
Wait, I thought I had to. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Dylan. Okay, thanks, buddy. All right. Well, I mean, what does it take to stream? I guess this is where we're going to end the conversation, right? What does it take to stream, right? Might take downloading OBS, might take downloading Twitch Studio, and then you hit the start stream button, right? That's how easy streaming is. It's really, really easy to stream. All you have to be willing to do is stand up in front of a camera and a fucking microphone. Everything else that you just named off had specifically to do with the person's personal interests and what it is that they wanted to display in front of a camera. So the act of streaming is so fucking easy, right? It is so easy that anyone that is listening right now can literally go start doing it. Go fucking do it, right? Download OBS,
Wait.
create your fucking Twitch channel, and start streaming, right? the difference here, right, is it whether or not people tune in to listen to what it is that you're saying or what it is that you're doing or what it is that you're showing them, right? There's a lot of good streamers out there, right, that will sit there and say, like, do auto mechanics, right? Like my good friend Demon Machine. Sitting out there doing auto mechanics. He's fixing shit while he's at fucking work. He's having a conversation. His boss is cool with it. Like, it fucking works, right? So, like, there's a whole lot of different streaming that comes in, but you don't get to just co-opt the word streaming and then co-opt everything else that goes into all of the other different types of contract. I think the food and drink community that's happening here on Twitch would probably disagree with you, right? Because there's a lot of chemistry that goes into cooking, and it's not just getting in front of a camera. So with all of that said, when it comes to like trying to come to Hasan's defense, it all comes down to ideology, which is how we end up in the conversation of hypocrisy from the start, Vaush, right? Because the hypocrisy is the hypocrisy is the difference in what the actions of the person are versus the ideas that even got them to that point. And that's where the inherent hypocrisy comes in. Now, you can all feel free to address me in your closing statements, but for right now,
Oh my God, dude.
I'm going to hand the mic back over to Dylan.
Okay, so we are going to wrap this up, and if you want to address anybody's point in closing statements, you are free to, but the last time you can address this topic is in the intro to the next topic. So, we're going to start, I'll just throw it over to Trihex, because he seems like he really wants to say something.
Like, by that logic, CTV, like, if I want to chop a tree down because I'm a professional, like, landscaper or whatever the fuck, right? If I have an axe, I'm forbidden by logic from ever getting a chainsaw because it costs more money, based off your arbitrary points of like getting anything above a microphone and webcam to go stream. Like, what you're illustrating here is a metric of like bare necessity. It has no basis in like a consistent criteria to entertain the logic. Okay. Period. It's like it is what it is. Like I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like that's it. That's the whole point.
Yep. I'm gonna move
to debate or
well, no, it's the ending statement. You can't do that.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, well then, all right, then I replied. I'm good.
Okay, gonna throw it over to Vaush.
Yeah, I think this one got away from us a little bit, but to summarize, under socialism, all Twitch streamers will have $2.7 million mansions in Los Angeles. We will only us, by the way, nobody else. And yeah, vote for Bernie.
Okay, gonna throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. So just to kind of summarize where I'm coming from on this one, I can recognize, look, basically Hasan Piker, he does, work hard, put in consistent effort towards streaming and everything. He's obviously attracted a large number of people, upwards of $250,000 a month from subs alone just on Twitch, for example. And these are people that obviously, he provides value for in terms of his craft. So at the end of the day, under a capitalist logic, he can buy the house and it's all good. I think that the issue here is just that if you're somebody who is principally opposed to the commodification of housing, even at a systemic, via systemic change, you could still recognize that maybe at an individual level, there's something a little bit off about that. Because you could just kind of make excuses, so on and so forth, until basically you're everything short of Jeff Bezos, but you're not. You're still not technically exploitative. Maybe, I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, it is a little bit disconcerting to see that sort of cognitive dissonance, but I don't think it's ultimately that big of a deal. Obviously, we were invited to discuss this, so these are my thoughts on that. I think that that's largely for his community to really determine on if he crossed any sort of line over the difference between, total luxury versus just, a sort of a modest sort of level or whatnot. I do think additionally that it is worth noting that people can do different types of tasks and different types of jobs in the economy and work hard at them without doing physical labor. I do find that sort of appeal to physical labor over any other sort of labor to be a bit backward, a little bit ultimately somewhat reactionary in terms of the characterization of labor. It's something that harkens back to old regimes and stuff in terms of their demonization of what they saw as like white collar bourgeois sort of work, that kind of stuff. I'm just basically going to wrap up here by saying, I don't really care too much. I do just find it a little bit weird, and I'll say as well, this is a huge problem in Christian right communities as well, right? That hypocrisy there. So thank you.
Okay, I'm now going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
Hasan's a hypocrite.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Bro.
I don't give two fucks that Hasan's a hypocrite. Let that motherfucker ball.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Heemed.
Bro.
Okay, so first of all, Vaush, if I knew that every Twitch streamer under socialism would get a $2.7 million house, bro, socialist team, here I come, Baba June, we're selling out. But for real though, I think it's a good analogy that I thought of while this previous discourse was happening. Let's say that you're like a vegan, right? You're a vegan streamer and you advocate for veganism, but you're really hungry. You don't have any food to eat, or you're going meal to meal, whatever. I don't blame you if you have to eat meat to get by. But if you're a millionaire and you've made millions off of advocating for veganism, and behind the scenes you're sneaking cheeseburgers in, I think that you're a hypocrite. Now, Trihex, I'll give you credit. You were the only person who properly answered my question when I said, is there any level of consumerism under socialism that would make you a hypocrite? And you said no. So just to be clear, under a socialist world, you're saying that like someone could go to space with the amount of wealth that they've accumulated without helping their fellow person, and you wouldn't find that hypocritical. I think that is hypocritical. Okay. And I also want to ask, I know the topic's over now, but I wish I got to bring up, what would you guys think if he put his money in an what would you guys think if he put his money in an offshore bank account, right? To dodge taxes? Would you still think that that's okay, or would he then be a hypocrite, right? And also lastly, I agree. This is just a surface level discussion. It's not that important. You guys are right that his actions and his messaging is actually more impactful in the world. But imagine how much stronger his messaging would be if he started a worker co-op that was successful in Los Angeles. And with that, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to CTV. And for those who have been responded to, don't worry, you can. The last time you can respond to this question is in the intro to the next topic. CTV?
Yeah, I mean, we laid it out pretty clear, right? Hasan is a hypocrite. He should have held to the values in which he kept preaching instead of looking for the quick way to, for him to get something nice for himself, right? Otherwise, there's no other way that it can be seen. And like everything else that I've been hearing, right, from those that are on the left, I mean, except for Heem. Heem's been spot on, right? Consistent with everything that I know about him. So shout out to Heem for being consistent. Everybody else, though, right? There seems to be like there's this minion justification from those lower on the fucking tier, right? To like, oh, we got to protect this guy, so we got to protect the whole grift. And it's like, come on, like, why can't you just simply call out this fucker for what you know, right, he should have done, instead of trying to come up with all this other bullshit, right? I mean, frankly, I kind of find it a little funny that we're sitting here on a Friday night talking about his ass when he's on the stream right now. I think 34,000 fucking viewers, right? And we're sitting over here with maybe an audience between all of us of about, 3,000, 4,000 maybe. So like he's actually winning right now by us, right? Sitting there talking about his dumb shit. So like, it's all fucking hypocrisy, right? When it comes to those on the left and they grift for socialism and end up exploiting capitalism in order to get there. And then all the people try to buy into it through a message of hope. And then next thing you know, we're all sitting there having to watch this motherfucker buy a mansion and not actually give a fuck about any of the people that got him there.
Okay, next we're going to throw it over to Brant.
Yeah, and final arguments, basically, I don't give a crap what Hasan does with his money. He earned it. He worked really hard. He's gotten himself to the top of Twitch and just chatting, and I think he deserves it. Now, if I were to get my subjective opinion involved, if I were to critique anything, that would be merely just me being a backseat driver trying to tell somebody basically it becomes a what I would have done with the money conversation. And like Vaush said, there's no real teeth in that because equal opportunity doesn't mean equal outcome. You give 100 people $100, they're all going to spend it differently. And you can spend all your oxygen and your time in the sand in the hourglass, yelling till you're blue in the face about it. I mean, I don't really care. I mean, that's between him and his community. And what will be bearing weight will be how it, comes down in the next year. If he goes into a 1,000 viewer Andy again, then we'll know that it didn't have, weight and that it didn't stand the test of time. But as far as I can see, the guy's doing great, and CTV brought up a great point. Maybe this was all to stir up controversy. You don't think that he didn't know that people would find out that he spends $2.5 million on a house? That's going to make people talk. To me, it was an investment in PR because it's got us talking about him, and it's not going to change anything. The guy's going to still keep going. He's still going to keep winning hearts and minds and keep doing what he's doing, and more power to him. I mean, I believe in the dream. I'm hustling every day. I would become hypocritical as well if I were to try to change up my tune. I believe in capitalism. The guy's using it. He's rocking it. He's winning with it. And if he's preaching socialism, hey, do it, man. If you've got an audience that'll be there and listen to you, keep doing it. It's none of my business. I try to stick to what's in my yard, not other people's.
Okay, I want to thank everybody for the topic. We're going to move on to the next one, which is going to be on refugees from Afghanistan. But I just want to say to chat right now that, hey, everybody, I am currently at about 41,000 or 41.5 thousand subscribers on YouTube. My goal is to get to 50K in the immediate future. And I would really appreciate if anybody could go to DylanBurnsTV on YouTube as we continue to push out about 2 videos per day. That's DylanBurnsTV. I'd really appreciate any support you could throw my way and just giving me a sub. It costs you nothing and is a good way to support the channel.
He's got good content. I watch your stuff basically every day. You guys should subscribe to Dylan Burns.
Yeah. Also, just to be sure, Vaush, when you went to the bathroom, you told Hasan upstairs to send the raid over here, right?
Yeah, we quickly, knocked on the roof and gave him the message.
Okay. It's good.
Wonderful. And if, of course, you don't subscribe, then gulag, you know how it goes. Okay, we're going to go on to the next topic, and it has to do with refugees from Afghanistan. The Taliban has taken over Afghanistan, and now there's a lot of refugees who want to flee the country due to their fear of the Taliban's brutality and repercussions. There's already been reports of people going door to door and executions of TikTok comedians that were critical of them, police chiefs, etc. So the question to the room is, should we take in Afghan refugees? And if we do, how should that process go? And how many? So this time we're going to start in the bottom left-hand corner with Kevin Castley.
Thank you, Dylan. So yeah, just basically to intro this, in terms of my position on it and everything, I do just want to preface by saying, as Dylan alluded to, what's been going on and what's been allowed to happen unfolding in the wake of the official surrender, essentially, has been horrible. It's been disgraceful. The things that have been happening in Kabul, they're really bad. I'm not going to say exactly what's been going on there because I don't want to risk any sort of TOS stuff for Dylan or anything. You can look into that yourself. It's heinous. It's barbaric. It's the type of stuff that can get streams taken down just for talking about the degree of the severity of what's been inflicted upon living and unliving bodies over in Afghanistan right now that the Taliban has been committing. It's absolutely horrible. The people of Kabul, the people of a lot of the more urbanized areas in Afghanistan, in the wake of the Taliban's blitzkrieg to seize the capital, as the United States had been drawing down troops from about 2,500 to around 300 in a very short period of time, what we saw was just absolute mayhem. And what we saw was that everybody who had their hopes tied in the future of a more progressive, a more developed country was just shot, and they found themselves now basically the property of the Taliban, and they rushed to Hamid Karzai Airport to try to get out. And we've seen absolute tragedies of humanity unfold there, where people have been crushed to death, dozens crushed to death. We've seen terrorist acts that have killed people. We've seen just an absolute outpouring of support by a lot of people in the West that do want to take in the refugees, but it's been tied up by both the 3 months process between 3 to 4 months when Biden announced that he was going to be continuing Trump's surrender to when the Taliban actually went into Kabul. Biden had only gotten about 1,800 people or so in terms of their visas out, when there were about 85,000 that had actually assisted the war effort all these years and worked with NGOs and worked with the Afghan government and worked with coalition forces that needed to get out. And we're still at a point now with Hamid Karzai Airport where they're doing the papers please memes and they're just screening everybody to try to see if they're eligible for a flight. And this is even happening at the airport, as these people are already inside the airport. At this point, if you're inside the airport, the Taliban knows you're there. If you leave on August 31st and there are still people left behind at the airport, those people are dead men walking, basically, dead men and women and kids walking. That's a horrible fate. And we're going to do this because we can't process them outside at Qatar or Germany or any of these other places like the UAE. They all have to be processed and their papers checked and everything here. My policy on this as it relates to refugees is that because Joe Biden and Western leaders across the board at various points in time, in Canada it was 2014, in Australia and other countries it was along with the United States now, because the US is the leader in that regard, all pulling out, the least that we can do is take in as many refugees as want to get out as possible, because we owe it to them for abandoning their country to the Taliban. And they helped us. 65,000, doesn't mean that they didn't fight. 65,000 ANA guys and women lost their lives fighting the Taliban over 20 years. The least that we can do is take in the survivors that want to get out, that stand with us and share our values and everything, and despise the Taliban. These people are not terrorists, as a lot of groypers will try to claim and fear bait over. And if the United States, if Joe Biden wants to go blue tie groyper, blue hat groyper, and say, no, we only want 30,000, not our problem, then I think that Canada or other countries should take in Afghan refugees, as many as possible. So thank you.
We're going to move it on to Trihex.
Oh, thank you. So if there's the appropriate amount of vetting, I can't actually imagine why there would be a vehement general opposition to allowing refugees from Afghanistan, based on humanitarian rights and whatnot. To me, there's like plenty of reasons to say yes here. Yes, economically, the country benefits from having immigration coming towards the country. It means that we have a surplus of workers. We're able to like do whatever they want here. So if you're on an economic pro economy of America, you're in for it. Yes, morally, because we wanted to get out of there, because it's like it's a shit show to say the least here, obviously, with a bunch of stuff going on there. And then ultimately, hey, we're a country, traditionalism here a little bit here, but yeah, we're a country built on immigration anyway. So I don't see why you would allow this in World War II, but you wouldn't allow it now. Again, under the pretext here that we'll be able to like fish out any bad apples or bad oranges with the appropriate amount of vetting involved here, which I think we already do anyway. And I only thing I can see here as far as like an opposition would be like a rooted fear of like inside agents, but other than which, again, I don't necessarily even see that either here. So I am pretty curious here of like what the argument would be against that. Seems like a pretty easy yes to me on, again, economically, morally, and it's what we already do, given we vet anyway. Pretty simple answer.
Okay, now we're throwing over to Vaush.
Yeah. We have a pretty stringent and effective vetting process. We should bring over as many as we reasonably can, and then maybe a few more. Oftentimes we think of immigration and taking in refugees and asylum seekers exclusively as a matter of personal self-interest, but we fucked over their country. I do not think that our assistance in this regard should be limited purely to what is most convenient for us. I think that we have a moral obligation as a country to do everything we can to compensate for the destruction we have levied upon that country and its people. And I want to thank, as unfortunately and maybe inevitably tragic, as our pullout from Kabul was, the Chad Biden for with his big balls doing what Trump talked about but never actually could do, which is actually pulling us out of Afghanistan. Wouldn't have expected it from him. Didn't think he had it in him. But, that's good old Steely Joe coming in hot with the removal of a 20-year war. So thank goodness for that.
Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, even if we accepted kind of where this thought in a way that makes sense, because some people have no idea what I'm talking about. Even if we accept the 20,000 that are currently in the pipeline under the SIV, and then the additional 70,000 after that, we'd still rank, I think it's like fourth for total group of individuals accepting Afghan refugees. I mean, in 2020, we ranked like 21 countries were ahead of us. We were in the 1000s. In that, comparatively, like you look at Pakistan and Iran, where a lot of these individuals will be traveling by foot, especially in 2020, that's where they ended up. So I think it doesn't seem too far-fetched to say that we should probably, under the SIV, make sure that people who worked with the United States make it out of Afghanistan. Because it's very clear that once we pull the people that we need to get pulled out, we're just going to kind of wipe our hands clean. Which I mean, I was watching the debate with Kevin. He wants to put some boots on the ground, so maybe we'll get there. But yeah, I think all in all, we have the ability to bring these people in. And also we got to remember that a vast majority of them, if not an overwhelming majority, will never make it to the West. So whatever number we bring in is going to be significantly higher than what we brought in the past. So I say, like, let's just fuck it and ball.
Okay, I want to give a breaking news update actually on Afghanistan right now. Biden has just retaliated for the Kabul airstrike explosion committed by the Islamic State with a drone strike against Islamic State members believed to be involved in the planning of those attacks in Kabul. The strike, I believe, so far, as far as I can see, has only killed one person, which was the person who was involved in the planning, with no civilian casualties. Just wanted to give that update. Now we're going to throw it over to DrHeemedOut.
All right. Okay, this one is really emotional for me. I'm from Iran. I speak Persian. All of these videos of these Afghan people crying for help, I can understand them in my native tongue. To people of Afghanistan, I want to say خواهرها برادرها اگر که بتونیم بیاین کانادا ما در کشورمون رو براتون باز میکنیم و معذرت میخوام برای این اتفاقایی که افتاده. And I just want to say that, like, as a Canadian, it's disgusting to me that we've only committed to accepting 20,000 refugees, especially when, in my opinion, most of Canada's problems come down to having a disgustingly pathetic small population that's spread out insanely. We have the fourth smallest population density in any landmass in the world. And the fact that we're only able to bring in 20,000 is absolutely disgusting. Now, I want to say that while I'm happy that the war is coming to a close, I wish that it could have been handled a little bit better. It's no secret that the Taliban was going to take over the whatever the remains of Afghanistan were. I only wish that, like, there was a way that before the forces pulled out, they would have gone door to door and said, hey, listen, do you want to leave this country? Because if you choose to stay, the Taliban are going to be in charge. Whoever wants to come through. Whoever wants to stay. I will say that, like, it's disappointing that other countries in the region have such ethno-state vibes. For example, Iran hates Afghans. You believe it or not, though they speak the same language, Iranian people have just as much of a hatred towards Afghan refugees as the most conservative person that you've ever seen. And that's really disappointing. In the region, there's a lot of animosity from within these countries towards each other. It's really heartbreaking, and I don't know what else to say. I wish that there was something that we could have done. So I do think we should accept as many refugees as possible, and it's shit.
Okay, now I'm going to throw it over to Sprout.
So I think that we should take any SIV holders, any people that have helped us in the war. They should come first. They should get the first ride over to America, considering they helped us during the war. I think after that we can look at the communities that are going to be affected by Taliban rule over ISIS. We can look at those communities and start vetting through those communities. Anyone that gets vetted through can come over, and then the landmass as a whole. I think that's the order it should go in. We should take as many Afghans as we can over here, as logistically possible. And I don't have those stats, so that would be something that Biden's staff would have to figure out the exact number of how many Afghans we could hold realistically. But other than that, that's how this. I think that's how we should get Afghans over here. On the same hand, I do think that Biden should resign for how he's handled this whole situation.
Okay, and if you want to see a discussion with me and Sprout on the idea of Biden should resign, that should be uploaded at some point next week. Now we're going to throw it over to CTV.
Well, guess I'm going to be the asshole in the room on this one. Anybody that's done any kind of real study on Afghanistan would know that for a large, pretty much all of its history, as a matter of fact, right, it's been an area of contention in the Middle East. It just has been. And Dr. DrHeemedOut is exactly right whenever he says that there's a lot of ethno-state vibes over there. As a matter of fact, the original lines that were drew up for Afghanistan were done so by the British back, I think it was back during the 18th century, right? The 1800s right there. So, like, this arbitrary line is how Britain decided that they were going to come up with this border, right? Without understanding that, like the peoples on the eastern side of Afghanistan and the peoples on the western side of Pakistan, right, actually have like everything in common, because that's actually how the ethnicity breaks down there as far as the border is concerned. So, like, moving. If the goal was never to try to do any type of nation building and to run off the Taliban because it allowed for the centralization of terrorist organization activity to be able to perpetuate in Afghanistan, right? Pulling out the way that we did only allowed that terror cell to be able to be reinstilled right there in that area of contention. Now, this is where if there would have been like any statecraft, right? Any statesman in office versus politicians, and there hasn't been, I would argue, for probably at least a good 100 years, right? We would end up getting into a situation where we wouldn't want entangling alliances, and if we were going to have our troops stationed in other parts of the world, that land would need to be a state of the United States, frankly. So, as far as accepting Afghan refugees, I think the people that worked specifically with us while we were there obviously felt like that they were working towards a goal, and that goal and things that were said should be honored. We should definitely be keeping our words in that regard. But with the entire ideology of the left seemingly always open borders, they don't want to do anything about the crisis. And I mean the crisis that we're having at the southern border, right? With people just flooding into the country. Why wouldn't they just say, oh yeah, margaritas for fucking everybody, let's all come in, right? And not give a fuck about like the actual systems that are in place, about how our government is structured, and like getting people to come in through the processes at a pace where our government can actually keep up. And then they would just say, oh, well, let's just spend more money and hire more people. It's like, all you're doing is throwing money at the problem instead of trying to address some of the real things that we need to as far as the philosophy of the nation is concerned. So again, this is going to be one of those topics where the left just doesn't know what to fucking do, and they're just like, default answer, sure, it's going to be best for me to say just accept everybody, so that's what I'm going to say so that I can be liked by the most amount of people and grift my way to the top to get to a fucking Hasan $3 million mansion.
Margaritas for Afghan refugees. We're gonna throw it over to Brent now. I gotta use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
So one silver lining of this issue is it has been a uniting point for the right and the left, because this is not a right or a left issue. This is a humanitarian issue. This is something that America as a whole got itself into. And I mean, I'm not trying to just shit on you here, Vaush, but I can't believe you used the word Chad and Biden in the same sentence. The guy strategically blundered the pullout, basically turned the lights out at Bagram Airport and basically left people to fend for themselves until it became a media blunder for his administration, for which he's now been forced, with the candle being in the room now, to have to do what's right. I'm all for vetting and helping the people out that are SIVs, women and children, to be able to get out of there, offering democracy to people, allowing them to come over here and achieve the American dream, have a fair shake at life, be able to learn how to read, be able to learn how to drive a car, not have to be subjected to extreme fundamentalism. And I can't believe that you said Biden was a Chad there. That's absolutely. I think that's like basically like an insult to people that lives were taken because of the fact that he basically let that, the people that lost their lives tragically yesterday. And I just want to say, rest in peace to the 12 servicemen and the 13th Navy medic that were out there that lost their lives, and all of the Afghan nationals that lost their lives as well. Rest in peace. Know that our hearts are with you, and that the majority of the American people do not stand for the politicization of that war. And I'm very much for vetting and getting as many people over here, putting, like I said, women and children to the top of the list. The people that have the most to lose in this situation, the people that have lost the most in this situation, have the most freedoms to lose in this situation. It's not a right or a left issue. This is a humanitarian issue, and everybody should be for the perpetuation of democracy and allowing a branch of an olive branch of peace for people to be able to come over here and to economically assimilate and be the person that they wanted to be, that they were supposed to be and chosen to be. And I just, like I said, I can't get behind the whole Biden being a Chad thing. I think a lot of this fundamentally rests on his shoulders. We shouldn't have pulled out there till we knew that we had the people that did not want to be there out of there and gave them every opportunity under the sun. If that meant holding Bagram and maybe other airstrips as well so that we could safely get people out, then we should have done that. But Biden did not do well on this. And there's a reason why everybody can unite on that particular subject. And like I said, of course we should be accepting people in. Of course we should. We should be giving every opportunity. We take in 1 million legal immigrants a year. Why can't we take in 50, 70, maybe even 100,000 in the first year? If they are vetted correctly, I mean, why couldn't we do that? Why couldn't we make that happen? I'm all for economic prosperity, and I mean that's my stance on the subject.
So I gotta give. Oh, sorry.
I just want to say for everybody at home that unless somebody will tell you if they're an expert on the issue, but you should assume that nobody talking today on any issues is an expert on the issue unless they say otherwise. I also want to give my own special tip on this. A good thing to start when doing research in Afghanistan would be to read the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction report. That's what we need to learn. Lessons from 20 years of Afghanistan reconstruction. There's a 160-page PDF. You don't need to read that, though. A lot of it is summarized in the overview. That is, I think, a good place to start if you wanted to learn about the Afghanistan war and what is universally agreed upon to be things that definitely went wrong with that war. And so I'll link that in my chat and all the chats I can. And it is open for everybody to talk now.
So I don't think anyone really has an issue with Afghan refugees coming to the United States. I think that we all pretty much share the same thoughts that the Afghan refugees should come to the United States. With that being said, I have to give credit where credit is due. Biden said he was going to unite this nation, and he did it in the worst possible way. He united us against him by failing so horrifically in the pullout of Afghanistan. And he needs to politically pay for his shots. He was the one calling the shots. And I thought the buck stopped with him. And so Biden needs to politically pay for him calling the shots and how horrific the pullout from Afghanistan really was.
Yeah, so
I too also support a backdoor first African American president. So I totally support that. Like President Kamala Harris, let's go, baby.
Yeah, I would support President Kamala Harris. I think that Joe Biden.
What a timeline!
Yeah, it can't get any worse than it is right now.
No, I think it's like, okay. I'm being sarcastic here because I think it's ridiculous to think that any administration was going to do this in a way that we would consider acceptable. The Taliban has shown for over 20 years that they've had more clout, more resources, more military strength than whatever country decides to oppose them.
They don't, though. That's just false.
Are you okay?
Wait,
all right.
Hold on.
Okay.
The Taliban goes into hiding, and what the Taliban does is they go into hiding, and then they attack. They jump out and attack, and so they just go into hiding into other countries. They go into other countries where
how fast has this takeover been?
Oh my God, I'm muted.
The takeover was within like 11 days, but that was because that was because of the way Biden called the shots.
Oh, because Biden called it. So Biden was telling the Taliban to go en masse to do that as fast. This is a stupid take, Sprouticus.
Okay, wait.
Stupid take.
No, stop. No, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do this one at a time. Okay. Look, while the Afghan government collapsed, this panel will not. So we're gonna have Joe say his point, then we're gonna have Sprout respond, and I'm gonna write down Kevin, then Vaush.
At the very least, I can give Kevin some points here because me and Kevin are on totally opposite ends on this, but we both recognized that the Taliban is dangerous. He wants to make sure that they're glassed off the face of the planet. Now, depending on where you feel about that, maybe you agree or disagree. But very clearly, one of my concerns is that if anything, it makes Kevin's argument to stay that we had with Rob Noor and I fucking fusion dancing in against Kevin even more reinforced. Because the minute we bounced and showed that we're going to bounce, the Taliban's like, okay, we're going to go in now. And now we're dealing with the situation. So I'm not saying that Kevin is right here, but this definitely reinforces the liberal hawk argument. So I'm very curious to see what he thinks about that.
Wait,
but the idea that But the idea that the Taliban didn't have the clout or the resources to do it as fast as they did is actually ridiculous. Like the Russians tried it and failed, and then we tried and we failed. So like how long? Unless you think that we should have stayed, like I totally agree that we should probably have acknowledged the Taliban as a considerable and legitimate threat, and made sure that we made a more direct effort and dedicated effort. So we didn't end up in this 11-day, however you describe, takeover. But at the same time, I can say that, like, if you think that the Taliban is weak in this regard, it's a ridiculous claim.
Okay, Sprout,
I hope you don't believe that.
your turn to respond.
Awesome. So, I mean, it'd be great if we listened, because if we actually listened, that's actually not where I was going to go with that. So I'm glad you went on a whole tirade
So let's go
of
for
what
it.
I
What's
wasn't
your point?
going to say. So the Taliban didn't have the clout, didn't have the military power to actually face the United States. They didn't. It's just categorically false that the Taliban had the clout or the military might to defeat the United States 1-1. That would not happen. The Taliban does not have any type of military might that would face the United States 1-1. Now, we were in Afghanistan. When we went into Afghanistan, the Taliban retreated from Afghanistan and
20
went into
years,
hiding.
friend.
So when you actually talk to veterans, you talk to people that actually went over there. There's a common saying that we may have the watch, but the Taliban has the time, which basically means that we may have the watch as we may decide when we're going to leave, but the Taliban has the time to wait us out. That's what the Taliban was doing. They were waiting us out. The way Biden pulled us out, Biden yanked the military first. He didn't yank the American citizens first. He didn't yank the Afghans that helped us first. He didn't even care about them. He yanked the military first, and then he's like, "Oh crap, we forgot about the American citizens and the Afghans that helped us." And meanwhile, giving the Taliban a list of literally every single Afghan that helped us. That's essentially giving them a kill list.
Are we just going to ignore that the SIV program was updated in June, or are we just going to keep saying shit we don't know? Like,
What do you mean? Are we going to ignore the SIV program?
I'll send you the SIV program.
I don't know how it
I
pertains
want
to
to
what I
understand
said.
the point. What's the point of
How's it
bringing that
pertain?
up?
No, I'm just like we can move on from this because we're not going to go anywhere.
Okay,
No,
relevant.
you're gonna make me
How's it
fucking
relevant?
speak about it,
Tell me to
Mike.
shut the
I
fuck
don't
up,
wanna
Oh,
CTV.
dude.
I want to move
How's
on
it
from
relevant?
this.
Wait,
I want to move on
relevant.
from this
Then
because it's going to
why
waste
bring it
time.
up, Joe?
Okay.
Stay,
Why bring it
Okay,
up?
calm. Okay,
Just stay
calm
mad.
down.
Stay mad.
I'm enacting.
Stay
I'm
mad.
enacting law and order. Okay, law and order
Okay.
panel host. Okay, so next to the list is gonna be Kevin, then Vaush, then Heemed. So I'm gonna do Kevin first.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. So yeah, just a couple points here. So just to the point about Joe talking about how, well, clearly they took it in 11 days. Now in fairness to U.S. intelligence, figured that it would be between 3 and 6 months. So Joe Biden was acting on it could be up to 6 months, in which case he could get 5,000 instead of 85,000 people out at that rate. That's pretty sad. But I will say, if you're the president and you know that there's a 100% chance that Kabul is going to fall in 6 months, it's not time to leave yet. Now, I'm not one of those guys. People say, "Oh, you're for forever wars." It's like, no. I want to leave once the job is done. I want to end the endless wars by winning them. Right now, we're going to have to go back once the next 9/11 happens anyway. But I will say, I want to get to a point that Vaush mentioned in his intro, because Vaush said that America and I guess the Western coalition fucked over Afghanistan. I just wanted to push back on that and say essentially that no, that as a byproduct of the mission there to oust the Taliban from power and get Al Qaeda, Afghanistan was liberated, and so this idea that he's Chad Biden, he just threw millions, upwards of 20 million women. That's the total there in Afghanistan, upwards of probably closer to 15 million women into sexual slavery to the Taliban. I'll say this about you. Oh, but you ended the war. It's been X years and we've had Taliban tears. It's like, I don't care how long it's been. It could be 50 years. If the job's not done yet, now I don't think it'll take that long if you do it right. Obama tried doing it right, but he didn't stay the course very long with the surge. And then under Trump and Biden, of course, troop numbers went from 100,000 under Obama for a few months to 2,500, which is not a sufficient amount to do anything more than protect the embassy at that point. I will say this. War is preferable to fascism. And as George Orwell said, essentially, quote, pacifism is objectively pro-fascist. This is elementary common sense. If you hamper the war effort of one side, you automatically help that of the other. And so now it's a longer quote than that, but the point that he's getting at there, and this is in the context of the Spanish Civil War, and I think it's appropriate because the Taliban are arguably even more reactionary, arguably even more extremist fundamentalists than the nationalists were in Spain. They're both horrible, both fascists, but understand, he just threw a country of 40 million people, roughly the size of Canada, into fascist tyranny to try to get points with people that claim to be feminists and claim to care about women's rights throwing them to the most patriarchal, absolutely disgraceful regime around, arguably on a similar level to North Korea. You know, I guess they have competition with North Korea. Great. So.
Okay, so trust me, I've written down all your names. Next is gonna be Vaush.
Okay, so we have a few points here. Okay. First of all, there's no denying that elements of this withdrawal were bungled, okay? However, the statement that things literally couldn't get worse is absurdly hyperbolic and is absolutely not the case. It seems like this was a house of cards with a few missing legs from day one. The more I looked into this, the more I realized that it seemed like all of the ways in which we were investing time and money into Afghanistan were doing nothing. We weren't even delaying the inevitable, really, because after 20 years, all the systems we built up collapsed within days. So it wasn't so much buying time with, for the inevitable, and more just like, we need to maintain a permanent military presence in this country to prevent the Taliban from taking over. And the problem with that is that Americans' presence in Afghanistan is an element that the Taliban used to radicalize their population. I mean, why the fuck do we think those people are around to begin with? That pacifism enables fascism, quote, was an argument in favor of fighting against an enemy army to fight back against an opposing military force. The Taliban recruit because we're over there. Same with ISIS. If you take a look at their memes, if you take a look at the weird shit they post in their own forums and the sites that get taken down and all of that, one of the most consistent elements that they draw upon to radicalize the youth who feel disenfranchised by the crumbling countries they're in is the fact that we are, and this is true, highfalutin Westerners who destroyed their country to begin with, drew the boundaries around their country that fucked them over centuries before, and now we're over there indefinitely imposing our order and our culture on them, whether they like it or not. Now, in our absence, there is a possibility that they will have a much harder time recruiting, and I'm interested in seeing the socio-political development of the Taliban absent any immediate external forces. But I just don't believe that our continued presence there would have been to any benefit. It's not a matter of if we had worked a little bit harder, we could have saved those people. I don't think we could have worked any harder to have saved those people. I completely blackpilled on the concept, from what I've read, at least.
I mean, did you not study like the 80s and the 90s whenever the communists pulled out and then they basically collapsed into a civil war with each other? Like, did you not ever study that when we weren't there? They didn't need any inspiration to burn TVs and cassettes, anything they considered haram, and it's written within Sharia law, Quranically. Like it didn't take our interference at all. As a matter of fact, we helped prop them up at some points.
Wait, that would have been that's my point though. The USSR did what we did. They were also a foreign militaristic imperialist empire that decimated the population of Afghanistan, literally cut it down by about a tenth, forced like hundreds of thousands of refugees out. Of course, they created geopolitical instability that erupted the nanosecond they left as well. That's the inevitable consequence of imperialism. Our nation-building project over there was a farce. It did not work. I don't think more time would have led it to work. The only thing that we can do for Afghanistan, I mean this sincerely, is working on the complex political dynamics in countries in the Middle East region, by investing, by building trade relationships, by having our businesses work with their businesses, and over time we can make war and conflict financially untenable. Right now, the way you make money over there is you become a warlord, and that is a profession that puts conflict and violence front and center. But if you see the sort of gradual economic development of Afghanistan, I think that's a much better prospect for long-term growth and peace in the region.
Wait, if that were true, though, then free trade with China would mean that China would be a liberal democracy by now. That's just like a neoliberal free trade with dictators kind of argument. Let's not actually do anything about the despots. Let's
wait, but
fundamentalists are ruled by.
Wait. I'm not saying it makes it a liberal democracy. I'm saying it makes it not a war-torn feudal state, which China isn't. They're not a liberal democracy, but it's also a stable country.
It's also, as you've described, fascist, though. I've heard you describe communist China as essentially fascist.
Do you think China would be better off if it didn't have like a stable trade network? Do you think if China collapsed and there were no longer any international trade relationships keeping its businesses afloat, that would improve the political situation in China?
It
Well,
would
let me
give the
answer-
people that are fighting for democracy a fighting chance, as opposed to going up against a trillions upon trillions of dollars armed police state that's crushing them and committing genocide. So civil war is preferable to fascism across the board.
Kev, we
Are you-
talked about
weren't
this a couple of months
Doing
ago.
civil war though. We
Do
were
you think the Mujahideen wouldn't have done what they did in the 80s? Oh,
Wait,
sorry.
I just want to make sure Vaush can respond to one question at a time.
Okay.
We cannot throw
No,
too many.
yeah,
Sorry.
I just
It's okay.
want to see. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the point being drawn here is. What we were doing in Afghanistan was not working. We had 20 years. We put a ton of money into that country, a lot of military might, and it collapsed like a house of cards.
But
Foreign intervention is no
China.
replacement for the development of civil society. And it is true that societies that build strong trade relations tend to be safer, more stable, sturdier, and less prone to violence. And I think that's the best road forward for every country, including Afghanistan.
I mean,
That's
Kevin,
not true that it didn't work though,
Very
because you
dismissive
went
of
from
what the Mujahideen did.
zero girls going to school in 2001 to 3 million girls going to school in Afghanistan
Nope.
in recent years. So obviously it did work, and now it
It went
wasn't
back to
finished,
zero.
it wasn't complete.
And to
I
say that
think
the
it could've-
Mujahideen
Wait,
is
we gotta let one person talk at a time. Kevin, and I swear to God, Brant, I wrote your name down. Just want to let
oh, good
people
brother,
speak.
sorry.
Yeah. So thank you. I just want to make a point that so you often hear about 20 years, but you need to look at relative troop commitments coupled with the effort towards reconstruction and other efforts. George W. Bush, well, he went in and he took out the Taliban from power. He didn't actually commit that many troops to Afghanistan. Obama did. He committed a lot, but he didn't keep that up to actually degrade the Taliban's capabilities. He pulled down very quickly after that. Under Trump, it went very, very low to about 2 to 3% of what Obama had. Under Biden, he left. The problem was the Taliban, after the surge, actually managed to regrow a lot of their numbers. And you might say, well, where do their numbers come from? A lot of the population, they do have some organic support in some of the countryside. That's true, but that's like making a legitimacy claim to people like Nick Fuentes and their folks in America. It's like these are the most ultra-reactionary, misogynist, bigoted sorts of people that you'd find. The people that actually supported the Afghan government tended to be more progressive-minded people. They didn't tend to like the Taliban. So when I see people that are generally more progressive-leaning legitimize the credibility of the Taliban, it just seems to me to be like, okay, women's rights and gay rights for white Westerners and Islamofascism for Afghans. That's what
This
we
is the
get.
problem. The logic you're engaging in right now perpetuates the cycle, okay? You know when Afghanistan was less stable? Before colonial rule. Back in the 1940s and 50s. That's when we last saw a surge of women's rights in Afghanistan. As long as we continue to convince ourselves that military occupation from Westerners is the solution to Afghanistan's problems, we will never free them from that cycle. We can't. It's not our freedom to give. We took it from them multiple times, but we can't put it back together. If I believed what you believed, that it was possible to do this with another 20 years, with another 30, then I would support that. And I used to believe that, but then I read up on it and now I don't. And all I can really say with response to that is it feels like somebody got stabbed in the back. We're not even willing to pull the knife out. More blood comes out when you pull the knife out. There's no getting over the fact that process is going to suck. But you can never heal unless you're willing to overtake the bump that we've created for ourselves. I'm not saying that we didn't do good when we were there in the sense that we created a pocket of relative liberal stability in Afghanistan. I just think the long road to this is an infinite cycle that never lets that country actually develop.
Okay,
Yeah, I would
so
disagree about the
Well,
infiniteness of it.
Kev,
okay,
we
so
talked
wait.
about-
I want to go to the list. I'm gonna go Heemed, Brant, then Sprout. I'll write Joe's name down.
Okay. So while I do agree that the Taliban and ISIS use United States presence as a tool of recruitment, it also seems like that a lot of civilians benefited from the presence. I was watching Mike from PA stream talking about the women's literacy rate, and then he quoted the wrong date, and Dylan corrected it. And Dylan actually pointed that like the it's doubled. Like it went from like 15% literacy rate amongst women to 30% literacy rate. Now, some people might say, hey, that's not that much of an increase. 30% is not much. Well, yeah, you're not going to teach like 40-year-old women how to read. Like you got to start from the school ages, right? So I do think that there's a lot of good being done. And like I've listened to a lot of Afghan women advocates speak on this issue multiple times, and it seems like a lot of them seem to say that if we pull out, we're fucked. Like we're gonna get, like our lives are endangered. Da da da. So like, while I agree that nation building so far, it seems like 20 years in, there hasn't been maybe. Considering the amount of money that's been put in, perhaps that money could have been used in a better way through infrastructure or whatever the case may be. It's still the case that, like, I guess I don't really see Vaush or anybody else. If you're saying like pull out and then we can like address their like humanitarian issues, I don't see how that would be the case if like the Taliban is openly saying like we're going to marry off 12-year-old girls, we're going to I just don't, like what is the influence that you're going to have if you're all the way pulled out, I guess, and how can that benefit the Afghan people's lives? While I agree that the Taliban uses the presence to recruit,
I think the Taliban resurgence was a literal inevitability that we have to get through. And it's unfortunate. And I don't say that like this is some sacrifice they have to bear. I'm saying I literally do not think there was anything we could have done to prevent this from happening. I don't think there's any length of occupation. So it is conceivable that over some incredibly long period of time, it remains within the realm of possibility. But what I have read on this just makes it seem like there has not really been much of a proportional benefit that we've gotten with internal stability with regards to our occupation. Now, yes, have we gotten more liberal rights? Women's literacy, yes, that's a huge step forward. But that's not civil structural stability, because none of it means anything if it all falls apart when we pull out. The exact same thing happened with the USSR. Hypothetically, the period of the greatest women's liberation for Afghanistan was under communist rule. But the nanosecond that frame of imperial control broke, everything went right back into the toilet. I just don't think what we were doing is an effective method of nation building.
So I agree, but what is your suggestion? To just get out and like fuck them, I guess?
No, what I'm saying is what's happening now would have happened 20 years from now too. The only thing we're doing is pulling out the knife earlier.
I get that.
Pulled out the knife.
Okay, I get that. So what I'm saying is, how do you now that we're pulled out, how do you suggest that, like, do we just forget about those people, let the Taliban like just marry off 12-year-old girls? Like, and I guess it's not really America's problem.
No, not at all. Well, first of all, we need to take in all the refugees we can. Second of all, we need to promote Middle Eastern political stability to the greatest possible extent, whether that it means detente with Iran or renegotiating deals with them or dealing maybe a little bit differently with Israel. There are things we can do to generally institute a greater level of peace in the region. There are also going to be rebel groups, some of which are already cropping up in Afghanistan, that we can fund and support as long as we do so in a way that I think reasonably integrates the demands and desires of the population.
Why would you be advocating for funding rebels, though, when that would be antithetical to actually trying to have functioning forms of government in the region?
Well, I mean, the rebels, though, the rebels in the Panjshir Valley, they harken back to the Northern Alliance and the Mujahideen. I've seen a lot of people in a lot of leftist circles criticize helping the Mujahideen overthrow Soviet imperialism. I just want to make clear on the record, you'd support arming the Panjshir rebels against the Taliban? Because I would. That sounds based. I'm just surprised hearing that.
Well, it would depend on the intentions and the favorability of those rebel groups. I haven't looked specifically into the political intentions of that group, but I'm saying that there will be people who will rise up to fight against the Taliban, and I think there are ways to support the better actors in that fight in a way that doesn't promote destabilization. Obviously, our goal with regards to funding the Mujahideen had nothing to do with promoting stability in Afghanistan and everything to do with fighting against the geopolitical interests of the USSR. There are better ways to handle those things. For example, I'm a huge fan of what the US did with Rojava. Their fight against ISIS was spectacular. Rojava was a phenomenal and effective fighter against the Islamic State. They did so in tandem with American soldiers. That was a form of imperialism or maybe interventionism that I'm very much in favor of, because it seemed to A, meaningfully support good actors, in B, a real and definitive fight against bad actors, which C, did not destabilize the region. It actually stabilized it. So that would be what I'd be looking towards. But no, we shouldn't just abandon them.
But how do you? Can I ask one quick question? Real quick before you pass. I just want to also have it answered. How do you bring in refugees if you don't have control of the airport or the country at any way? Like, where are they supposed to go? You need to have some sort of avenue for people to get out, right?
Well, right now, I mean, there are people being evacuated from Kabul, but apart from that, even during the Soviet control of Afghanistan, like millions of people fled the country to border regions. I think it would be possible for us to maintain. It's not as though we don't have any military presence in the entirety of the Middle East, right? I'm sure
so they got to walk by foot.
Well, I mean, the vast majority of them do already.
We can't have like a functioning
okay,
airport in the middle of a Taliban-run country. I don't know if we could
That's the
maintain
problem.
that.
That's why you don't surrender it prematurely. I had a question for Vaush.
then-
I had a question for Vaush, which was
No,
that
we can't. There was never a perfect solution to this.
Well,
There
the
was
perfect
never
solution would have
was.
been to go around and say to people, "Listen, the Taliban's going to take over this country. We're not going to hold it down forever. So, like, does anybody want to leave? What are your like? If you want to stay. If you want to leave,
that's
here's an
better.
option to
That's
get out."
better.
It's
It's
so
true
much
that there's-
better.
It's true that there's. But wait, hold
Wait,
on.
I'm
Much
saying
better.
wait.
Let him
I'm
answer.
saying. Okay,
There's-
I can't. Let me just be clear. When I can't hear shit, so if I can't hear shit, then no one in the audience can hear anything you're saying. Vaush, please respond.
It's true that there's validity to that. The reason I heard they didn't do that is because that would essentially be saying they had no faith that the Afghan army could have effectively defended against the Taliban, which would have undermined morale, made it more likely that leaders abandoned their posts early, and would have further sort of led the country along to its demise. Now, obviously,
likely
because
Yeah, but hold on.
No,
no,
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
obviously-
Whatever you're about to
now,
say, I
obvi-
do not care. Vaush, finish.
Now, obviously, because our practice of nation building was a farce and led to nothing worthwhile in the long term because it all collapsed like a house of cards, yeah, that didn't happen. It collapsed immediately anyway. But I think that the American military and our politicians, after 20 years here, were probably not willing to make an open admission that everything we'd done was for absolutely nothing by saying essentially, oh yeah, we're getting out of here. Who wants to evacuate? Because there's no way the government we just spent like trillions propping up is actually going to survive. That's why they didn't do it.
So it was because of a political, like optics, basically. You're saying?
No, it's because of a
Would have undermined
misunderstanding of
morale.
in the entire history of Afghanistan, right? There's never been a foreign power that's been able to go into Afghanistan and hold the fucking land. The smart thing for this administration to do would have been able to say, hey, look, Americans, right? If you're in this fucking country, we're getting ready to leave. We're pulling our military out. Here's the date in which it's happening. After that point, the people of Afghanistan have their entire fate held in their own fucking hands. Do you want to take that chance? If you, in fact, want to take that chance, then you can remain in the country of Afghanistan. If you do not, you better make your ass over to Bagram Airport right fucking now before we close down this bitch and get the fuck out of the area. That's entirely the problem with this administration's fucking
We did.
response, and there is no fucking no. You just said they didn't, and I know they fucking didn't, Vaush. So for you to come up and say that kind of dumb shit only lets me know that you're playing some type of partisan fuckery, right? The same
no,
thing that you were
that's-
doing on the last topic
we've
with regard to
had
his
deadlines.
Okay,
design.
That's the Biden did.
wait. Okay, we're gonna have Vaush respond. Then we gotta go to the list because there's so many people waiting.
Of course, we've had deadlines for withdrawal. Presidents just don't follow up on them. It's been known for a long time that we intend to withdraw. However, there's a pretty big difference between saying, yeah, we're going to withdraw in the future, and hey, any evacuees want to make it to the airport, which is a pretty implicit suggestion that the Afghan military wasn't capable of propping itself up. How do you think the hundreds of thousands of soldiers who we very poorly trained over there would have reacted to what was essentially an official acknowledgement by the American government that they had no chance against the Taliban? I'm not saying what Biden did was a
Question.
I'm
No, you
not-
asked a question.
wait,
You
hold on. Wait. That doesn't end the
No,
statement.
you asked a question.
Wait, I got-
Oh my God.
Wait, no, I gotta
Wait,
hear
can we-
Vaush. I gotta hear Vaush's.
Well,
finish
he's
his
got to
points.
quit asking fucking questions, man.
Well,
Hey, you
what-
can.
That's not how
learn to
discourse
hold-
works.
okay.
No,
Learn to
it
hold
is
no
how
No,
discourse
no,
works.
no,
You
no,
ask the
no,
question,
no,
you
we're
fucking
done.
answer.
We're done.
Shut the
We're
fuck
done.
up.
Everybody
We're
woosah.
done.
Everybody
We're done.
chill.
We're done. Vaush, finish what you're saying.
Yeah, so learn to hold multiple thoughts in your head simultaneously. It won't be a problem for you. I'm not saying what Biden did was optimal. Obviously not. That's the first thing I acknowledged, that it wasn't. All I'm saying is that is the reason why he didn't do the thing that he did. Was this a bad withdrawal? Yeah, I think it could have been handled a lot better. But it's important that we understand why it went down the way it did.
Okay, so now we're gonna go down the list of people. So Sprout has been waiting forever.
He took his headphones off.
So we got Sprout, Brant, Joe.
Oh, I can still hear your dumbass.
We got Sprout, Brant, Joe, Kevin. We're gonna go in that order. So we're starting with Sprout.
Okay, so back to the conversation I was having. Joe, I don't know if you thought you were going to get away scotch-free with that irrelevant statement you made, but please explain the relevancy of the statement in which you tried to counter what I was saying.
You're probably going to have to give him a memory check.
when I said that we gave the Afghans a kill list, and you suggested it was updated in June. Relevancy of it being updated in June.
Okay.
Good answer.
Guess we're moving on to Brant.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to more so speak on what Vaush said earlier, that the Taliban's sole motivation for recruitment is the fact that we're over there. Whenever they were recruiting before we came there, and I mean, they had an entire civil conflict with the Mujahideen, and I mean, they were already doing that before we showed up, before we had presence, and I feel like that was severely dismissive and trying to put a lot of the weight for which an extremist fundamentalist organization which adheres to Sharia law would be acting. It wouldn't matter if we're there or not. It wouldn't matter if we're involved to one degree. They're still going. They believe in an eye and an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I mean, they are very consistent and disciplined and adhering to what their book tells them to live. They're no different than if we had extremist fundamentalist Christians in America trying to dictate.
Some people would call that the Republican Party, though. Still,
of course. I mean, look, there are people all the time that if I step 1 foot to the left, they call me a communist. If I step 1 foot to the right of the left, they call me a Nazi. All these different things, and it's one of those things where I just like to speak objectively on the point, and that is when you have an extremist fundamentalist group like that it strictly adheres, we have no bearing on the way that they believe or practice their beliefs. We're essentially trying to provide democracy above the table with having foreign interest under the table. You look at a country that has 93% of the world's non-pharmaceutical grade opium, and then you mix in with that an opioid crisis that happens along the same timeline with us being there. Now, I kind of got off point there, but what I'm trying to say is what our involvement there had no bearings on the way in which they conduct business. And if we leave there and we just pull out, it's not like they're going to give up on that exact goal. Their goal is to be back to a fundamentalist nation, and that's what they've been wanting to do for the whole time. And if we just leave people there and we don't leave a presence there, like what CTV was saying, we hold the fort down, we give messages explicitly to women and children, hey, if you don't want to become property, if you don't want to become a pawn in a very barbaric game, we provide and we extend to you an olive branch of peace and an opportunity to get the hell out of here. And we botched that. We botched that terribly. Now we're playing makeup. We're playing catch up. To say that we are what is motivating them, yeah, to a degree, we probably are motivating them. But if we left and pulled out completely today, look how it went. Look how it ended up. It started getting very, very dangerous very quickly. Not to mention, if we were to completely just turn our back to it, let's say the media wasn't reporting on this, think about how bloody it would be. Think about how absolutely gruesome and terrible that it would be. And it would have nothing to do with our military being over there, because that is the way that particular organization conducts business. And that's the way that they are.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw it over to Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably something Kevin and I will probably have to go back and forth on because this is a callback from a couple months ago.
Yeah.
How you ready to party? Let's party. So
yeah, like old times, Joe. Let's go.
Yeah, let's have a little party because Sprouticus is a little bit intolerable. So one of the things that I think is still possible.
Why? Because you can't answer a question?
You couldn't answer my question.
No, I clearly mentioned you can go back in the VOD that I didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, so we could have moved on.
Yeah, but then why'd you bring it up?
You got very loud and
You brought it
aggressive.
up.
Yeah, but then why'd you bring it up?
Yeah, which is why I said it was probably a dead end, so we can move
You're
on.
derailing right now.
Well, you're the one
You
still
are.
talking to me.
You are. You're the one
Let's play the
derailing.
game. I'm gonna stop
And then
talking.
you're saying
and
I'm
you're gonna stop
unbearable.
talking,
Well, then quit
and
making
I'm gonna go with my
jabs.
point.
Okay. We don't have much. We don't have basically any time left on this topic, so I want to see what Joe's about to ask Kevin. Joe.
So one of the things that I argued a couple months ago, and we got into a little back and forth, was that we should probably I still hold this belief that we should embolden the Kurds in China. And the way that I argued a couple months ago to catch people up to speed is that we ease tariffs on China to offer assistance to the expansion of the Belt and Road Initiative through connection routes like Isfahan and Iran. additionally, that by making those connections, it could be they're going to have to go through there with some type of military force. They're not going to make it all the way to the Arabia Sea or Persian Gulf or the Oman and the United Emirates just like, oh, we're just going to go in there and just casually do our thing. Like there's going to be some type of military presence, and I think China has the ability to help us in that regard. And by doing that is easing tariffs. Additionally, I think what we should do is actually show the Kurdish people that we still care about them, because Donald Trump pretty much ignored them and they got glassed. So I think what we should still do, and the argument I still hold, is emboldening the Kurds militarily. So they've proven to be military competent against ISIS, so we should probably show that we still support them. One way that you can do that, among others, is helping them with vaccinations and infrastructure in the areas that they currently occupy, and areas including Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. Now, there are problems with that because we do have relations with those countries, some deeper than others, so there are certain compromises there. But the same argument I made a couple months ago, it's a damn a lot better than what we're dealing with now. Now, granted, we're in a totally different timeline, so things like that would change, but still, that's a core of my argument, emboldening China and the Kurds.
So, Dylan, can I respond to that?
I mean, if you want to start, we can start
Kevin,
with the
you
level of
respond to that.
intelligence of the conversation. So we can start with like CTV, then we can go maybe Kevin at that same level.
no.
Then we'll do like a
Kevin
huge
going.
gap and maybe 30 minutes of silence. And
I mean,
then we'll
John,
go
I know
to
you got a
Sprouticus.
crush on me, right?
Guys,
But-
I just said we don't
Wait.
have much time left. So Kevin,
Okay.
please, you can respond.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, obviously there was a viral moment that went all across Twitter from bad Middle East takes, lampooning that whole back and forth. I think what a lot of people were getting at, and me too, when I was listening to it, was like I wasn't sure if you were meaning like Kurds in Afghanistan. I think a lot of people were like, oh, there's no Kurds, like there isn't really a
Correct, I
substantial
misspoke.
Kurds. You're
I misspoke,
talking
we'll
about
clarify
Kurds in
later.
Syria and Iran and Turkey and
Yes.
Iraq, right?
Yes.
So that's actually separate to the Taliban in Afghanistan. I
Correct.
feel like that's worth a different conversation. I support Rojava. I support an independent Kurdistan. Like I'm a fan of Christopher Hitchens. He always walked around with the Kurdistan lapel. Wanted them to have statehood. They definitely need statehood. 100%. Screw Turkey. Screw all the mistreatment that's been done against them. Look at how Saddam Hussein handled that. They need a state more than arguably.
Yeah, not to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off real quick just so we can say a little bit focused in the back and forth.
Yeah.
My main thing is that while yes, they don't have a presence in Afghanistan. One of the reasons that I said like improving the infrastructure in the territories that they currently are in, and also giving them aid in a COVID-19 pandemic, is to show that like, hey, we need your help militarily in this region. Can you help us? I know Donald Trump basically said you can all go fuck yourselves, but like through the Biden administration, we show that we are serious with this allyship. You helped us before, so can you help us now? Because it's not only us that's in trouble; it's the entire Middle East. And I think we could have like lived our way through that, but
Joe, I think the problem is if you're in Kurdistan right now, you're trying your best just to hold off against Assad and against the Turks that are basically butchering them. So they're not going to be able to lend up support for a long time to that. And we have to deal with Turkey. We have to deal with Assad. And so
it's a multi-front. It's not like it's not like a vacuum where we like exclusively assist the Kurdish people and exclusively it's like kind of like a one two company.
I do want to get your point about China, though. I don't agree with basically saying, well, we're going to outsource liberating Afghanistan and protecting Afghanistan and Afghan people to China when China is doing a genocide right now against the Uyghur population. So if they went into Afghanistan and they were doing what they're doing in East Turkestan or like the Uyghur region right now, if they did that in Afghanistan, look, I'm not saying that the Taliban's a good guy. The Taliban's horrible, but
there's a lot of Uyghur Muslims in the Taliban.
No, but there's a lot of people that are going to be sympathetic to the Taliban now against China if China is going to go and do a genocide. So my point is just that, like, if the people of the Uyghur territory, if they want to rise up against communist China and actually do terrorism against state buildings and state military depots, I've already said I support that. I support funding them in their liberation against China. So actually, I consider China to be an enemy state. They just threatened to nuke Japan just a few weeks ago. They're building up multiple missile fields of ICBMs. They view us in the West as an enemy, and they're not. Look, they've already proven by their absolute abuse of power and their indentured servitude mongering to Sri Lanka and Kenya that all that they're interested in is money and imperial neo-colonial power in these regions. They're not actually interested in the people on the ground. So my point is, and this goes back to a point that Vaush made about Taliban recruitment. I don't see how we're supposed to own the Taliban and prevent them from getting more recruits by giving them the whole country. We've just given the game up. It's like they don't even need more recruits if we give them the country.
Not to cut you off again, but don't you think that if we aligned ourselves with the Kurdish military, the United States and China, that would be pretty much, I don't see a Taliban surviving that type of outcome, unless you're suggesting.
Oh, no, I got you. I'm just saying that at that point, like the Taliban compared to China, the Taliban's not threatening us with nukes. Like, let's just be real about that. They're brutal, they're horrible, but
I'm saying like this might be one time where we ought to collaborate with China because they have interests, we have interests, and if we're trying to get our hands out of the game, what better way in showing the people who bring their hands in the game that we're still going to help you, but we're going to do it the way the United States government loves doing, which is that covert ops, baby. But
see, I don't like the idea that you're somehow going to stabilize the situation by letting it fall into enemy territory's hands and let it become basically a colony of a state that's doing a genocide against people that share a lot of the same creeds and stuff as the people in the Uyghur population. Like, they've proven that they do not have a very good track record of giving human rights to people that don't happen to follow their state ideology. Like, I wouldn't trust them to manage Afghanistan.
Yeah, not to cut you off again, but something that I argue is that I think this collaboration with China is inevitable.
I disagree. A lot of academics have looked into it, for example, have actually come to the conclusion that there would be a war between the West and China if this rate keeps up. Now, I'm not sure about the inevitability of it and whether or not it would be nuclear or anything. All that I know is that our interests are such that.
Let me clarify. So, like, I'm a bit like, let me pull the nukes out of the deck. So I think
they're the ones threatening to nuke Japan. Let's just be clear about that. That's not me. I'm not threatening to nuke Japan.
What I'm saying is that I think that the collaboration with the United States and China in Afghanistan is an inevitable possibility. And not even a possibility, I would argue that's inevitable. Because at some point, there's going to be a time where we have to recognize the Taliban in Afghanistan. Maybe that's next week. Maybe that's a couple months from now. But at some point, we're going to have to recognize that this is out of our control. And we can't go to Russia for help because Russia. And honestly, I think that if one individual is going to be in the game, I think China.
Wait, guys. We got to wrap it up. We only got about an hour left in the show.
Yeah, well, we can talk more. I'm down to have a debate with you one-on-one about this.
Can I end on something really quick?
Well, we're gonna have a closing statement, so you can end on your closing statement, right?
Cool, for sure.
Okay, yes, wonderful. So I was gonna start with CTV because he was on the list, and I wanted to give him that opportunity. He's not at the thing right now, so I'll give it to. I'll start with Brant.
Just to end and wrap up this particular subject, I think our greatest negotiating tool is liberty and freedom and a way out for people to get out of there if they want to get out of there. I think all the other options should only be exhausted if we get pushed to the brink of another war, another conflict. I think one thing that can hold an extremist fundamentalist group in check and force them to become more progressive is to extend liberty or the opportunity of liberty to those that wish to get out of there. That's one of the greatest cards in the deck that we have to play. It will make honest men out of the Taliban for whatever that's worth. And I think that's the option we need to be exercising. If it means we have to hold an air base, we need to have boots on the ground in a small footprint, holding a foothold and extending that to people that, especially women and children that want to get out of there. That should be what we exercise as an option. War should be something that we only start talking about as a reactive conversation, not a proactive conversation. And so I'm just wrapping up my particular thesis with, we have to extend the opportunity of democracy and liberty to the people that want to get out of an extremist fundamentalist nation. And then for the people that are left there, we have to pray and hope that either the Taliban does right by their word, or the people can rise up and revolt and reestablish a republic like they almost did before the communists ruined it for them in the 70s and the 80s. And that's basically what I think, just wrapping up, because I felt like we got way off base with all these other particular side conversations. I feel like the main tool that America has and always has is we are a nation of immigrants, and we have liberty, life, liberty, and property. And that's something that that particular country is lacking in, and that's our greatest negotiating tool. We lost the ability to come to the table and bargain whenever we just left, and we were terrible in leaving our own people over there, contractors and interpreters that we made promises to. So we need to go back. We need to have a pretty strong presence at the airfield. We need to extend the idea of getting out of there. And that's just what I'll say on that. Everything else should only be exhausted if it's the last card in the deck, in my opinion.
Okay, we're gonna throw it to CTV.
All right, so here's the reality of the situation, and everyone knows CTV loves talking about reality, right? So here is the reality, right? I'm glad to see Vaush is smiling and he's nodding. That means I have his attention, right? Good. So
Yes, sir.
Afghanistan was a monarchy first, right? And then there was the April Revolution for communism, then the Mujahideen, right? And then Russia. Joe, you mentioned Russia. Why Russia? Russia tried to occupy Afghanistan for 9 fucking years, right? The British tried to do that before that. We did it for 20 fucking years. Frankly, I am happy, right, that the United States is on the way out. What I'm not happy about is the way in which it's being fucking done. You don't pull out the very fucking people that are there to defend Americans while leaving the other Americans that are there fucking helpless. And that right there, I would say, is the American people's biggest fucking critique overall with everything going on with this current situation. You don't pull out the guys that are there to protect your people because we put out the military. As if that's supposed to mean a fucking thing if you leave so many fucking civilians behind. Like, it literally means fucking nothing. It shows a gross incompetence by this fucking administration. It shows a gross incompetence by those that are fucking around him that wasn't like, hey, dude, you should probably do this. You're fucking insane, right? I get that your butt's been wiped, right? But that ain't got a fucking thing to do with the people that are going to be left there in fucking Afghanistan. So that right there is the crux of the entire fucking argument. The administration is shit. The American people understand the history in Afghanistan, and us getting the fuck out of an entangling alliance that our founding fathers warned us against is exactly what we need to be fucking doing. The last thing we need to be doing, unless that land becomes a state of the United States by some weird fucking chance, right? We don't need to fucking be there.
Okay, we're gonna throw it over to Heemed.
Okay, so I mean, listen, we had a lot of interesting discussions about the outcomes of whether we had stayed or we had gone, but again, I just want to like reiterate, man, like as a Middle Eastern immigrant who got a chance to get out, I feel a serious sense of survivor's guilt just watching all of this go down. My parents met during the Iran-Iraq war on the border of Iran and Iraq. That's where they went to university. And to this day, my mom still has crazy PTSD just from even hearing fireworks because of all the fucking shit that she had to live through. I think that all people of the world, their lives have equal value. I don't think one person's life is more important than the other. And it's just really sad to me, everything that has happened here. We can put aside, all the disagreements and stuff and just acknowledge that like a lot of Afghan civilians are going to get fucked because of what this pullout because of how this pullout has gone down. And that's just heartbreaking, man. Like we're sitting here on Twitch talking about it, but like these are real people who are going to get fucked, and it's really sad. And then I guess like now that the pullout has been, complete, I don't know how they're going to do mass refugee exits, unless you tell people like good luck escaping the rule of the Taliban just in the middle of the night, fucking crawling under a fence and trying to get through, and which is very dangerous as is, even without the Taliban having control. And it's only going to get tougher now, and then we can finally like let you escape. It's really sad, man. And I wish that like a country like Canada that has so many fucking problems, from our cell phone bills to our healthcare costs. All of these things can be boiled down to how small our population is. Our population is shrinking and getting older, and our replacement rate is absolutely pathetic. And the fact that we were only willing to take 20,000 refugees after 20 years of involvement is, I don't know, it's a bit sad to me. I understand why so many people in the US have war fatigue, because obviously the nation building and the money spent hasn't had the net benefit that people would have hoped. But yeah, it's just sad to me to see like how people are unable to like show some sympathy for the people who are not anyone on this panel, by the way. I think you guys were all very level-headed. I just mean in general, I've seen a lot of like ultra nationalistic sentiment in regards to pulling out, and just a lack of care for the Afghan people. So shout out to them, I guess. And yeah, that's my closing here.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Sprouticus.
So I brought up a point. My point is that Biden did a tragic job of pulling us out of Afghanistan. It's not the idea that we didn't need to pull out of Afghanistan. We needed to pull out of Afghanistan. Us staying there longer was not going to help. We needed to pull out. We needed to get out of Afghanistan. We've been there for 20 years. Us staying there longer was not going to help. And what I said was that Biden did an absolute trash job of getting us out. Biden gave a kill list to the Taliban. Biden pulled out the military before he even thought about the civilians, the SIVs, the people who might be in danger because of the Taliban. Before he even thought of those people, he pulled out the military, which are there to maintain order, right? That's what the military was there for. And the only response I get to that in this topic of discussion was, the SIV list was updated in June, and he won't even defend it. He won't even defend it. I offered him a chance to defend it. He won't defend it. So there's been no actual common sense point brought against what I said. And we've sat here and talked about China for the past, 20-25 minutes. So I guess we all agreed with my point. And there's my closing statement.
Okay, I'm going to throw it over to Joe.
It's very incredible as somebody who didn't know what SIVs were at the start of the conversation. And then
I knew what SIVs were.
I am in my closing statement, sir. I am in my closing statement. I can wait. We can wait. I'll wait.
Okay, well, I knew what SIVs were, and the fact that you're going to say... No, he said he's ready. He gave me the floor.
I don't care.
He gave me the floor.
I don't care if he gave me the floor.
I yield the rest of my time.
You yield the rest of your time? Okay, we're going over to Kevin then.
Oh, okay. Wait. Are we like unironically going to me? Because I want Joe Lewis.
Spread your wings, King.
No. You can make your closing statements.
Okay, thank you. I love it when white people yield the floor to the black people. It's great. Reparations 2.0, baby.
Shit.
Wow. Okay, we're done. We're done. Okay, stop.
Wow.
Okay, this has gotten off the rails, okay? So I'm gonna stop. Joe Lewis is not gonna get an ending statement. We're going over to Kevin. We're gonna bring it back to Joe if he wants one later, okay, Kevin?
Darn, okay.
Okay. So basically, so my point on this, I got a few points here just to close with about this situation that's unfolding right now. I debated ultra nationalists about this and everything. Their takes on this are absolutely cringe. But likewise, people that are often will come at things from a slightly better position as far as their domestic concerns about, human rights, women's rights, etc. They also have a pretty cringe position, generally speaking, on Afghanistan, because that's, as I say, the horseshoe bends cringe word. There's been a pretty united effort in recent years by the elements on the right and the elements of the left to basically say we don't care about any country outside of our own. We want to pretend that the world doesn't exist and hope that the rest of the world will forget that we exist. And that's just not a way that you can go about doing this. And then you have the more neoliberal minded folks who say, no, we want to acknowledge the Taliban exists. We just want to trade with them. Like Ben Wallace of the UK has said he basically wants to have relations with them as long as they don't do significant human rights abuse. And I'm just like, hey, Wallace, that's their job. They're the Taliban. That's literally their job description is human rights abuses. So good luck with that. So basically, as far as what we got here, this was not an inevitable situation. A mere 2,500 troops was a strategic stalemate. Now, it was not going to get rid of the Taliban. Let's be clear about that. But it would buy time, at least, for the Afghan National Army to get higher readiness, for the government to weed out corruption, to develop more for the people in a lot of the urban areas that were benefiting substantially from having a Western coalition presence there, to flourish and build their resolve against the Taliban. And instead, Joe Biden ran for the hills and then blamed the Afghans for running for the hills after he just threw them to the wolves. So of course they were going to run. The U.S. doesn't defeated. The anti-war America First movement, basically, of the right and the left, made him give it up. And at this point, basically, we are going to have to go back into Afghanistan, but we'll be going back in from square -5, not from square one after the next 9/11, because all the interpreters and translators and drivers and cooks and everybody that worked with the U.S. and the government there, none of those people are going to trust America anymore. The absolute damage to America and the West and Australia as well. You saw Australian veterans burning their medals to protest their government refusing to get out. Their allies on the ground. It's such a betrayal to all of the people on the ground there who 65,000 fought. They did fight. The line is they didn't fight. They did fight. They lost 65,000. That's like if America lost 600,000 people fighting a war, and then Joe Biden has the nerve to say that they didn't fight. They did fight. He's the one who gave up, and yet he accuses them of giving up. Now, I will say about how it's been handled. It's far worse than anything that happened at Benghazi. Yet there were constant congressional hearings about Benghazi. I would like to see Biden actually held to account on this. And I'll close by saying that to people that have said today that they hope for the refugees to be given a chance at democracy and an opportunity, I agree. Let's take in as many refugees as we can possibly get out of there, extend the deadline, bring in all those globe masters that you can. The U.S. has over 200. Canada's got some. Why beg commercial aircraft to do it? Yeah. So I'll finish by saying, basically, just like with charity, how charity can't solve systemic issues, so too, just in this case, we can't solve democracy, this problem of people not having democracy, by taking in a select few refugees. What about the 40 million people that are left behind there? What about giving them a chance so that they can have their own homes, their own country, and flourish in their own country, free of the Taliban? How about that? You could have been born there. If you live in Canada, you had a higher chance of being born in Afghanistan, similar population, higher birth rate. I could have been born in Afghanistan. I think you should care about this. This isolationism is pure cringe. So thank you.
Yep. Trihex.
Yeah.
You talk too much on the topic, Trihex, so try to keep it short.
No. I was actually getting a little fatigued here because I was like, I'm staying up late I usually wake up every morning at 6 a.m. for the fitness grind and all that. Sorry, so I apologize. I'll turn to the final topic here. I do think it's flattering here that honestly we derailed and pivoted so far from the initial conversation about whether or not we should accept the Afghan refugees, that was like such a no-brainer that actually everyone agreed on, and we quickly moved past that, which shows that we have some basic standard here of like of humanitarian advocacy and human rights, which is like really, really good. I do want to give an applaud the audience or the panel tonight for actually. I thought that was actually going to be like thing we have to debate over that hardcore. But yeah, aside from that, yeah, I completely agree. Vaush made a lot of great points. I'm like a little bit tired and don't recall all of them in exact detail. And I think forgive me on the names here. Where I'm looking right now, bottom left and top left, y'all both were rock stars here. So big props to all that there. I'll be much more talking in the third topic here, actually.
Yo, thanks, man.
Throwing it over to Vaush to wrap it up.
Yeah, likewise, I'm glad we all seem to agree that taking in refugees is a good thing. Sorry, I'm just not sold on the idea that our state building over there was effective or relaying to any meaningful long-term goals. It seemed like we're just letting a wound fester, and we're not willing to, hold our breath and pull the knife out and get to the proper act of actually healing it up, which unfortunately I think is going to be a long and bloody process, but I think it always would have been no matter what. We never touched on this, by the way, but I want to say, Dylan, you said in the middle of the intros that Biden retaliated with a drone strike that killed one of the people responsible for the suicide bombing at the airport. If it did indeed kill just one person, and that one person was the person responsible, or one of the people responsible, that seems like a fairly pointed and reasonable retaliation. It's possible that with sort of some degree of limited assistance in that region in the future, we could lend some assistance, ideally not boots on the ground or military in general, but other forms of it. Though there are ways to conduct sort of aerial operations responsibly, like what we did against that Iranian-backed militia in Syria some time ago. It seemed like that also didn't have any civilian casualties, stuff like that. Maybe there were more responsible roads forward, but what we were doing just does not seem to have been it.
Okay, now we're going to go on to the last topic of the day, and that has to do with food stamps. With COVID, Biden has decided to try to increase food stamps to help more Americans who are struggling during the COVID-19 pandemic and during the economic recovery that he is trying to push forward with the American Rescue Plan. So the question is, should we increase food stamp benefits? We are going to throw it over to start this one with Heemed.
Nice. So I know
Hand raised.
I know I've spent a lot of time pushing back on my fellow left-leaning panel members, but this is where my sockdom is gonna shine. I'm 100% for increasing funding to food stamps. In doing the research for this topic, I saw that the average benefit is going to go up in October by more than 25% from the pre-pandemic level, and 42 million people are currently, using the food stamps. So what's going to happen is it's actually going to go from $36 a person to $121 a person. And the reason that this had to be pushed now is because on September 30th, there was an expiration for the temporary 15% boost that had been applied just for the pandemic. That was set to expire. So this is taking it from a 15% boost to a 25% boost. And I think, like even to the fact that it's only going to go to $121 monthly for a person is like ridiculous. Like that's not even what is that? Like to survive off of $121 for an entire month is fucking. I challenge anybody on this panel or anybody who's against this to try and survive off of that. And this is the suggested increase. The current pre-pandemic levels was $36 per person for an entire month. So I think it's important when discussing if we're going to increase or decrease to actually think like, okay, what is it? And how does that relate to people's real lives? $36 is a fucking joke. $121 better, still a joke. And a lot of people rely on food stamps, and a lot of people have been, it was if someone's going on food stamps, it's not because they're living in a $2.7 million house. They're probably doing it because they fucking need it. So I think it's good to supply food stamp price increases.
Okay, I just want to ask if everybody, since we don't have a lot of time left and we're all running a little bit behind schedule, if everybody could try to keep the opening statements as short as possible. We're going to throw it now over to CTV.
Well, I just got through looking up on cbpp.org, right, which is the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities team. Right now, what they have here is they put out a pretty interesting chart when you go down to table 1, and I posted that in the Hippy Dippy group chat, right, that was created before the thing, right? So household size of 1, right, maximum monthly benefit fiscal year 2021, $204, estimated average monthly benefit fiscal year 2021, right, with the addendum of estimated average benefits are based on fiscal year 2018 SNAP quality control household characteristics data, the most certain recent with data and this information, $138, right? So we're still above the 121 that you stated, and we're definitely way fucking above the 30 that you just stated, right? 30-ish, right? So from there, right, the question that you have to ask yourself is that what should be the purpose of the SNAP program, right? Is the SNAP program supposed to be able to give people the benefit of, say, being able to eat and stay alive? Or is it supposed to be able to give them their $10 fucking Starbucks coffee that they want to drink in the fucking morning? Well, I think that's a very viable question, right? Because it doesn't cost that much to buy bread, and if you're going to buy mayonnaise, folks, definitely buy Duke's mayonnaise. Do not buy that pretend fucking Hellman shit, right? Duke's mayonnaise is the only way to go. If you don't have it available in your area, I highly recommend that you get some Duke's mayonnaise. Now, but you can make a fucking sandwich, right? You can buy some fucking ramen noodles and you can survive off of $138 a month. So that's where you have to come in here. Like, what is the purpose of the SNAP program? Is it supposed to be? I know you want to ask the question. That's why
toast and mayo sandwich. That's what you're saying? Toast and mayo?
Hold on. You got to wait till the end of opening statements, right?
So like I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Right. So,
gotta keep
so
going,
this
guys.
is where you got to ask what the purpose of the program is. It's supposed to be able to give people a way to be able to continuing their life to work towards whatever it is they hope to build for themselves. It's not supposed to be this entire fucking, hey, you can go buy your fucking $10 fucking coffee at Starbucks, right? So, and with that, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, I also like Rayman. My favorite was Rayman Origins, personally. We're gonna throw that over to Brant.
So, I mean, with all the money that we spend and all the other egregious spending that we do on other programs, why not? Why not increase SNAP benefits? If we can balance the budget, I mean, it's our money anyway. We're paying into it. As long as I'm eligible for it and everyone else can be eligible for it and apply for it, be able to use it, then why not? I would like to see that there be not egregious abuse of the SNAP program, being as how it'd be used, like he's talking about buying items that would not necessarily be considered essential to survival. And I mean, I'm going to keep my opening statement pretty limited, but I mean, why not? We spend money on so much other stuff. I mean, if you look at any of the bills that have thousands of pages, you can't even read it in the amount of time that Congress meets on it and votes on it. All the pork that's in there, shrimp on treadmills, studying if whether hot tubs reduce stress. Spoiler alert, they do. I mean, why not? Why can't we take care of the people that we have here? Why can't we take care of, people that actually need it? If they legitimately need it and apply for the program, and especially factoring in inflation, rising costs of goods, why not?
Okay, you gotta throw it over to Sprout.
So, I think that the food stamps, I don't think they should go up. I think food stamps should be I think food stamps should be rebuilt from the ground up. I think that the way food stamps, I think the way that the way we help the poor in this country right now, it keeps the poor poor. I think that we need to actually rebuild everything from the ground up instead of just raising the amount that people get. And I think that would allow a lot of people to actually be able to start to actually get past that poverty line, right? And be able to stay past that poverty line, because a lot of families right now, they're worried about going past that poverty line and losing the food stamps and then not being able to afford it past that poverty line. So they're encouraged to stay underneath the poverty line, so that way they get the money from the federal government. So no, I don't think food stamps need to go up. I think we need to rebuild the entire system.
Okay,
Ooh, good
now
take.
we're gonna throw it over to Joe.
It's amazing to me. I never thought in this timeline that I'd see a right winger support an abolishment of a structure that keeps people in poverty. Really incredible to hear. Fuck a 25% increase. The entire program should be remantled. Something to be very clear here, right, is that 25% is not enough. $255 a month is not enough for a vast majority of Americans. If we understand that the dollar does not work the same way universally from state to state, then we also have to recognize that what we consider poverty is going to be different from one area to another. And also when we even include the increase of SNAP benefits and benefits like WIC, we're still going to need food banks under the system of a 25% increase. You're still going to need programs like Meals on Wheels, because if we recognize that we are progressively becoming a more elderly community at mass in the United States, then we need to expand all of these programs. I would argue abolish them and build them from the ground up, as Sprouticus laid out very succinctly and clearly. Because right now these systems keep people in poverty, and then what happens is you have on one side left-leaning folks who will do just enough to keep people just satisfied, just enough to vote for them, but then still complain about the systems. But then the right wants to strap on this idea of meritocracy and that these systems you have to work into when they recognize. But then there's also like a subtle recognition that a lot of people who are in these programs can't work or can't make meals for themselves. So it's like, I really think these programs need to be expanded, and we have to stop this war. Not even this, it's a war on poverty, but it's a war on poverty to make sure that people stay in poverty. And it's disgusting.
Okay, next we're gonna throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. I did just want to say very quickly, just to Vaush's point from the last panel about how Vaush didn't have the confidence that a continued presidency in Afghanistan could change the outcome. If you're ever interested in debating that, I'd be happy to, share my thoughts on that, basically, because I don't believe that what we saw was inevitable, even with just the bare minimum 2,500 troops there continued. Anyway, moving on to this topic, I'm of the view here that what you basically see is, as has been kind of mentioned and alluded to already, these sort of cycles of poverty and everything. I think that really the only way to get out of that in the long run is to move towards a negative income tax type system, where instead of having all these various lump sum in-kind transfers, you just basically have people learn to manage their own money. I would couple it with personal finance courses, that kind of stuff, free of charge. But if we're not moving towards that system that I ideally want down the road, perhaps decades it would take to transition towards, in the here and now, given the political discourse here and now, increasing this, especially in a pandemic, I know this is going to surprise people, but I totally support it. Because if we're not having a discussion about actually systematically reforming it in a more fostering internal locus of control around finances opposed to external locus of control, then you're not really going to affect any change by not increasing it or increasing it. The better thing that you can do for people in the here and now is to increase it. It makes all the sense to increase it. I think Joe Lewis made a good point, though, about the differential cost of living, and that should definitely be a factor, because California is a lot more expensive to live in and purchase goods in than, say, Mississippi or something, right? So thank you.
Okay, throwing it over to Trihex.
Yo, all right. So I will not try to bore y'all with fapping to the porn of my idealized utopia of how USA should be ran. I'm much more fascinated in talking about solutions that are practical to right here and right now. So the question of expanding food stamps here, in short, yes, but it's nowhere near enough. In actuality here, if we're talking about stabilizing the vulnerability of the bottom 50% of the country, which is making under $40,000 a year, and it's in the interest economically, because having a robust middle class is continuing being attacked and shrunk under our capitalistic society right now, it is much more substantively efficient to not just expand a grandfather program like food stamps, but rather address the real issue here, which would be at absolute minimum here, expanding some kind of UBI, universal basic income / freedom dividend program that should have been enacted and be enacted tethered to the duration of COVID-19 being a national emergency. That should be the absolute minimum to happen right now. Also, going further in here, again, just in the interest of the whole thing of why we're expanding food stamps in the first place here. But we should have nationalized healthcare to stimulate essentially pausing the economy to minimize the rupturing of all the economic sectors that were disrupted by COVID altogether, which led to the most economically vulnerable people, again, those bottom 50%, to be further displaced altogether here. And with that, it also comes into play here that if you were to entertain only expanding food stamps here, you still have the problem here of wage exploitation being done by mega corporations like Walmart, who essentially pay their employees dirt fuck nothing because they can subsidize these programs, these social safety net security programs, in order to excuse them. They get paid so little that they qualify for food stamps, essentially, which they justify as hey, you get this, so suck it up and get the fuck over it, which is a leverage to be able to pay them less than a living wage ultimately here. And finally, denying any of this extends the pandemic, which is not in anyone's interest here, both economically and humanitarily, period. So again, I say here, at minimum, I advocate for more, honestly, but at minimum here, a UBI tethered to the duration of the COVID-19 being a national pandemic, period. So let's do it.
Okay. Now I'm going to throw it over to Vaush to wrap up intros.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Also, I think you should decommodify access to food.
That's why he's no longer hippy dippy champion. Okay, we're going to go into the open discussion now. You can all go back and forth.
Well, I'm not surprised that Joe Lewis from the start, right, wants to point out different levels of poverty, right, across the nation, and somehow say that SNAP benefits aren't going to be correlative to the different rates of poverty in different parts of the nation. But in the exact same fucking argument, he wouldn't be able to understand that same argument when it comes to federal minimum wage. It's like you think that every part of the country should just be able to afford the fucking federal minimum wage, when in reality, when that law affects everyone, right? That's why it is that it shouldn't be enacted in regions that are not as prosperous as I would argue, and I think very effectively, right? Those regions around cities, which can afford higher wages because they are literally having to compete for the best kinds of workers, whereas in rural regions, you kind of almost have to kind of take what you can get, right? So
what-
from there,
I got this.
right? Oh, I hope you do got it right, because the reality is that like you would argue SNAP benefits with regard to it being federal and minimum wage. The two arguments can't have the same type of justification. The reality here is that SNAP benefits, right, are the barest of minimums for somebody to be able to be fed and to continue perpetuating themselves so that they can continue to work and get to themselves to the next place in life. It's not meant to be a forever fucking program for someone to be able to take advantage of, right? And not be able to take care of themselves. The entire system of government that we have in place here is designed around the idea of individual freedom and individual liberty and people being able to take care of themselves. That right there is the reality. And in the situations, the rarest of situations where people can't take care of themselves, we do enact government programs for people to be able to get that leg up that they need. It's not meant to be something that affects the majority of the population to the point to where it bankrupts the fucking country and sends us right back into the fucking dark ages.
Do you know the threshold in your state of an individual that can qualify for SNAP in terms of income? How much they need to make per month?
Let him have a sip.
Why are we yelling?
Why is it that you feel like that this is a pertinent conversation
In New
whenever I know
Jersey-
that,
in New-
I knew you were going to go to New Jersey, which is
Because here's
specifically
the
why
thing,
you should
CTV.
not bother
Here's the thing,
asking me a fucking
CTV.
question whenever the conversation
know
from
what
the
you're
start is going
talking
to be
about,
disingenuous.
and I'm gonna
whenever
expose
going to be
you of not
speaking
knowing
from
what
the-
you're talking about.
whenever I'm going to be
wait.
speaking-
Stop. Okay. I have no clue what anyone just said. Wonderful, glorious. I love the
I heard New
tinfoil. By the way,
Jersey.
I just
I can-
noticed
I
the
can
tinfoil.
ask the
Wait. Everybody has working ears here, right? Does anybody have an hearing problem I was not told about before stream? Sprout would be the one. But I just noticed a tinfoil hat that Brant's wearing, and I just wanted to give that a proper shout out as he's protecting himself from Big Pharma and the evil media
Yeah.
waves. I appreciate
Mhm.
that. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so
Got
I'm
us
gonna have
covered.
Joe say what they were trying to say clearly. Then I'm gonna have CTV respond. Then Heemed. I wrote Heemed's name down.
In your state, what is the maximum that you'd be able to apply for a program like SNAP? What's the maximum that you can make per month in order for you to qualify for SNAP in
Well,
your
I'm-
state?
I'm glad that you asked. Right. So I just posted yet another fucking link right into the Discord group. So feel free to look there, right, for some more fun facts and numbers.
In the
right?
state of New Jersey,
Households-
it's what?
I want to fucking read you my state since you asked the
Sure.
fucking question.
Absolutely.
Right? So because there, right, household size 1, 130% maximum gross income limit, $1,383. 200% maximum gross income limit, $2,128. Right? Maximum benefit allotment, $234, right? And that's the state of North Carolina. It's
Okay.
not in any way comparable to New Jersey, which is why your
course not.
problem needs to be a state fucking issue and not a fucking federal one.
What the fuck are we talking
So,
about? Right
so
now?
let me try to recenter this for you, CTV, because like, listen, I understand that Twitch acting for you is very, very good for this. But somebody who's worked in the grocery industry for 15 years, I'm very acquainted with SNAP and WIC and all these benefit programs. So in the state of New Jersey, for a single individual, it's $1,968. That is a significant amount of money in a lot of other states. However, for the very program in my county, Meals on Wheels, to qualify for that program, you have to the limit. Like if you make anything less than $1,500 a month, you can then qualify for the program of Meals on Wheels, which is a meal supplement program. So why is it that at the local
No
level,
shit.
the threshold is
A lot of
lower?
states have that.
than
We
at
gotta
the-
wait. We gotta let Joe
but
finish.
you're not missing, like, we're on the same side on this, CTV, and you keep yelling and you think that you're trying to like prove a point of me of being hypocritical, but it's not existent. It doesn't exist.
Oh, it
We're on the
is.
same side of this argument. I argue
No,
that
we're
there
not.
has okay. My argument is that there has to be a federal and local effort. Federal has to include oversight of all the programs across the United States, and then each state has to determine what that looks like from their state from one to another. But we also have to recognize that certain grassroots programs that are looking to fill in that gap also have to be scooped up in these local efforts. For example, the Meals on Wheels program in my county only has 4 drivers that serve over 2,000 residents in my county. How are that many people supposed to serve that many people every day? It's not.
I don't know.
feasible.
How many fucking postmen does it
You
take
don't
to
have-
deliver the
you
fucking
don't have
mail?
to- you don't
right?
have to
Why
yell
don't
for
you
this,
Why don't
CTV.
you just like answer the
Wait,
your own
it's
fucking
CTV.
question
Wait,
instead of answering
He's
the
gonna
fucking
yell for
question?
everything. No,
Okay,
it's
so wait,
TV.
wait,
That's his modus operandi. He just yells.
We gotta move. We gotta move.
yeah.
We're gonna move on to Heemed because Heemed wanted to say something. I want to hear what Heemed has
Sure.
to say.
Okay, so this is gonna be cleared up so easily. Can we all just agree that you can CTV? I think you would even agree that there is some minimum level federally, right? Like even in the poorest or in the cheapest state, there's a minimum level that you could say would be adequate for a minimum wage. No.
No, I just don't feel like that's the job of the federal government.
Wait one sec.
specifically.
Wait one sec. Let's go very slow. So I'm saying if you're saying state by state, right? I'm saying why can't we set the lower bar at the state that has that would match that, and you can do the same thing with food stamps and then supplement it on a state level. So you have a minimum level federally, and then you also have it supplemented depending on what area you live in.
So then
And
let
same
me
thing with the minimum wage.
Let me preface it like this, right? Because I'm not trying to disagree with you, but I don't believe that the federal government in its purview should be doing this type of thing, right?
But your
It should-
original
it
argument was
hold
that
on,
different
it
things
sh-
cost different things in
You're
different
right.
places.
You're right, which is where the federal comes into it, which is why I would say that the federal government shouldn't be involved at all. But at the state level specifically, right, I agree with you. Like that there definitely is a minimum amount that the state could be providing, right, for people that need the type of help that is required, right? Now, since we're already in, and me and you both were born into this system, so neither one of you have had really a chance to change it. But since we're born into this system where the federal government is involved, then there should be like the barest of the barest fucking minimums that the federal government fucking does.
I think that
it
is.
allows the
Okay,
state
it is.
to
It
do
is the bare
Right,
minimum.
Exactly. Right.
You said
exactly.
mayo
So, hey,
sandwiches.
CTV, do you really think the federal government shouldn't intervene on states?
Wait, I have a
States like-
compromise.
Sure.
An enlightened centrist compromise. Okay, there are two elements here that are correct. On one hand, yes, prices vary so much state to state that any kind of flat across the board federal mandate for food stamps or minimum wage or anything else is going to leave some states overserved and some under. Okay, that's fine. On the other hand, leaving this entirely to states doesn't work because more than half the states are run by Republicans and they can't do shit. So what we should actually do is have a federal mandate which ties food stamp monetary value based on some kind of aggregate average of food prices that you could accrue from that state. Therefore, things are tested to the relative economic worth of that state, but we don't leave half of the states in our country to starve because they're run by people who think it's a virtue to take people's tax dollars and not use them on anything other than like bombs. Does that
And
work?
something else to
Centrist Vaush, I
Vaush's-
like you, bro.
Something else to Vaush's point, which is very, very important, because right wingers will always bring up this perspective, is that there's going to be individuals who abuse these programs and we ought not to pursue them. Because I don't want people going into a Starbucks and buying a Starbucks coffee with food stamps. Guess what? You can't use food stamps for Starbucks because it's not within the purview of the SNAP program. So one of
fucking
the
shit, you can't use fucking food stamps for Starbucks. It's a fucking food item. You can go to any grocery store that accepts food stamps
That's
and
not
buy
true,
your fucking
CTV.
Starbucks.
That's not fucking true, CTV.
It is true.
Well,
It
for
is
okay to
true.
to clarify what he's saying.
Let me clarify what he's saying because I know what he's trying to say.
Wait, I could just Google if you guys want me to. I can Google it and be the person who decides whether that's true or not.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Please
Google
do.
into
Okay,
a grocery store
while I
where
do that,
EBT is
while
accepted.
while I do that, I'm gonna throw this over to Brant and then Kevin. Okay, so we can resolve that through a bipartisan consensus.
I've received emergency food stamps before through SNAP benefits. It was back whenever I was getting back on my feet 10 years ago. And if you can buy it at Walmart, there's like a 99% chance that if you can put it in your cart at Walmart, like the little coffee drink. When he says Starbucks, he's not talking about like a cup with your name on it and somebody
Them shits
brings
isn't
it up to-
$10 though.
No, it's true. They're like
Correct.
$3 or $4, right? But there is some merit.
Wait,
There are
so
there's
wait,
some
so wait,
merit
you're
to
saying,
what he's
hang on one
saying.
sec. You guys are saying that because some people spend it in the not the most optimal way, that fuck them, fuck the like. Who,
Fuck 'em all.
obviously,
No, we're just
obviously, some
saying
people
that-
spend their money poorly, and their food stamps
Right,
are
but
going
to
to be
be-
spent
but-
poorly.
but to
We're just saying a better vetting process. We're just
wait.
talking about a better.
I want people
vetting
buying
process.
lobster with Snap.
I mean,
But-
honestly,
they want
if we
Starbucks,
if we
go for it.
defunded certain programs, we all could be eating filet mignon and lobster tail every night. To be honest,
Brent, but to your point, not to cut you off there are
Yeah.
people who firmly believe that you can go into an affiliated Starbucks and a
Yeah.
Target and use your EBT card at the Starbucks that's representing on behalf of Target. That's not true.
That's the whole misinformation campaign for sure. But the way he generalized it, it does make it sound as though you could put yourself anecdotally in somebody standing in line at
Correct.
Starbucks and just swiping their card. But what he's alluding to is being able to buy Starbucks, the little cream coffee drinks.
Yes, it's classified as a snack food, and snack
Exactly,
foods are
right?
included under SNAP.
Now, what I would say is I would love for there, like I said in my opening statement, I would love for there to be a better vetting process on the items that qualify for SNAP benefits.
Oh, for
Therefore,
sure.
people can be more focused and maybe have a little guidance on the basics that they can get. You know, like we used to have WIC, or I think to some
We
degree
still do,
we
yeah.
do. Yeah, right?
Yes.
And there are WIC approved items. Why
Yes.
don't we have SNAP approved items that
Well,
people can do, right?
Here's the thing.
Before you answer that question, I have the
Yeah.
answer. So when it comes to EBT and Starbucks and stuff like that, it depends. So on normal corporate Starbucks locations, generally speaking, you cannot use EBT. But if it's a non-corporate Starbucks store, like say one in like a Target,
Targets,
like if you go to a
specifically.
Target, you can use it there. But that's because they license the Starbucks logo and brand, and it's a grocery store. So you
And
got,
that's
it's like a loophole.
And as an example, and just to be clear, this is something that the Food and Workers Union was fighting against back in the early 2000s, because certain stipulations under EBT were not clearly defined, specifically under snack foods. As an example, for certain WIC
I
checks.
think I deserved an apology though.
No,
Understand why you care? Why do you care how
you gotta?
Absolutely
What,
right.
what the like, bro? What the
As a matter
fuck
of
is
fact,
wrong with
the-
you?
the
Like,
example that Dylan just laid
it's
out
not
is there
about
could
you,
be-
bro.
there
But
could
Battle
be-
Royale.
Hold on.
What's
Stevie, why do you
just gonna
care so
I'm
much?
just gonna power through this.
Okay.
So
look,
just to be
look,
clear,
look. I answered the
Wait.
question. I'm just gonna say the Starbucks thing dies with that. Okay, I don't care about that
What's wrong
anymore.
with having Starbucks?
And there's about 15
Exactly.
minutes left in the show, so I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about
so
Starbucks for the next 15 minutes. Okay.
Yeah,
CTV
so-
was right.
Why
So
don't we
look-
switch it from Starbucks to premium proteins?
But
So
who
not
cares
we-
if
we
somebody
can't-
has-
we
if
can't-
somebody-
Wait. The next person to say Starbucks is gonna get muted for the rest of the show. That is my new rule. Okay, so no more people bringing up Starbucks in any fashion. I'm now throwing it to Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. So I did just want to say quickly here, just a couple points. I don't actually care, like in any sort of system like this as a social safety net. I advocated earlier, ideally, you do a negative income tax. Trihex argued for a universal basic income. I'd be interested in talking with you a bit more about the differences of that, because UBI would also be preferable in some cases to this. But understand something, under UBI or under a negative income tax, either one, the government isn't checking what you're buying with it. Now, I would stipulate that you got to do personal finance and everything on the side with it as well, and try to encourage entrepreneurship and all that kind of stuff. But in an ideal system, the government isn't basically being your parent. The government's just there to kind of get you back on your feet, not to like micromanage every specific thing that you're buying. I don't care if you buy the no coffee. I'll say the no coffee. You can buy 100 no coffees and
Is that a
learn,
mute? Is that a mute?
I didn't say the brand.
Okay. Guys,
synonymous.
please.
I just want to know.
Wait,
I just
wait.
want to know what.
Okay, is my mic working? Okay, it is working. So, just, I don't care. Please, no more Starbucks. For the love of fucking God.
Okay.
Kevin,
Okay.
continue.
I just
Okay,
want to
okay.
know. Can I ask a question to the conservatives?
Well,
Why do you guys care so much?
wait. So,
Well, no, I'm almost done.
wait. Yeah. Okay,
almost done.
so
I
can I
just
ask you a
wanna
question?
finish
Wait. DrHeemedOut, do you want to deploy 100,000 troops in Afghanistan?
I don't know why.
Well, no, I'm just trying to figure out if your name's Kevin Castley or not. Okay, so shut the fuck up. And Kevin Castley.
Oh, man.
Damn.
Kevin,
Oh, man. True.
Kevin, please finish your point.
Yeah. Thanks. So basically, I don't like this whole almost like 1984 style thing to where a lot of people that are in this position, not of their own choice, we're going to be woke scolding them or lecturing them because maybe they buy a nice drink every now and then with some of the money, which I say I want an open, just blank check, negative income tax, or Andrew Yang and as Trihex is proposing, a UBI. I don't like this whole, you spent it on this slightly different product or that product. Like, come on. To me, it just seems like a fake outrage by people that don't really want to improve the status quo. So thank you.
Okay, so next is going to be Heemed, Joe, then Trihex. There we go.
I mean, listen, mine's a super quick point. I just want to know. I CTV left. I want to know why he cares so much. Let's say I give someone $200, right, so that they can improve their life. Who cares how they spend it? Whether they want to spend all 200 in one sitting or spread it out through the month, who fucking cares? It's about the total. It's about the total amount of money, right? That's what we're talking about, not the individual intricacies of how motherfuckers choose to spend their money. That's not anything we can control. So it's a stupid argument to bring up.
No,
Here he
I'm
comes.
glad you asked the question, right? So since you asked the question, the reality of the situation is that I don't care how they spend their fucking money. It's the argument of
He's
the
like
amount that we're
Candyland.
talking about. I'm glad you're keeping up with the conversation. That's why we made the distinction between federal and state, right? So because we made that distinction and there is no checks, right? There's no specific list of like, you can only buy great value bread. You can't buy the Wonder Bread, only the great value, right? There's no distinction made there, right? It comes down to the amount. And that's why the amount for the federal is different than the state, than the limit for the state of North Carolina, and also from the state of New Jersey that Joe so eloquently pointed out, right? So that the differences are in the amount is what we're actually talking about. Not
Wait,
what
sorry.
motherfuckers actually buy.
So let me just confirm. So what you're saying
the
is that
reality is they can
sorry, let
still
me just
buy it.
confirm. What you're saying is that in some parts of the country, the food stamps amount is so high that people are basically buying luxury food items. Yeah?
No, I'm saying that the amount that the point here is one of those principled things, right? Is the point of the food stamp program supposed to be like as soon as you go on it, it's supposed to take care of not only your food needs, right, so much, but like so much point that you could be going in there and buying $20 steaks and then selling them for $10 because you have an excess amount of food that you don't need. So then that's when the question comes in, like,
So
do
you think
really
that it
want
is too much?
that? When the question comes in, which is specifically to the point of the question, is raising the amount, right?
wait,
That's what the
CTV.
question
That's what
is
we're
right
talking
now. Is
CTV,
whether or not
where-
to raise the amount. Or unless
where
Dylan,
is that?
Dylan, did I misunderstand the question, or are we talking about raising this amount?
We're talking about
CTV,
raising
where's
amount.
the examples though of people
I'm
like
glad we understand.
No, CTV, I just want to understand, like, where's this example of, like, people getting, like, the food stamps and then doing the whole arbitrage thing where they're going to go and sell it on a different market?
Well,
to
I
try to
mean,
make,
I know
like,
people that
I
sell
can-
their food stamp cards.
I can quantify that a little
Who
bit. So there's a
cares?
little bit of
exactly.
there's
Who cares?
no one cares, but CTV
Yeah.
also says a few things that are not true. So I want to make that very clear. It's very
What
clear
things?
when you're
What
on
things?
programs.
What things did I say?
I'm
saying
trying.
them
I'm
right now.
trying so hard,
Well, then start
and
off
you
with that,
make it
please.
so incredibly difficult.
I
So
know.
when
I
you're
wanna
on EBT, you were given very clear guidelines of what you can and cannot purchase. However, and maybe Brant can elaborate on this a little bit, one of the problems is depending on the state that you live in, the access to that information can be incredibly difficult, and sometimes it's up to the cashier to know what to do in those situations. As a common example, if I buy just a standard soda and cleaning product, let's say I just buy like a bucket of bleach, so 99 cents and
You
1.99.
can't buy that with EBT.
Of course you can.
No, you can't buy bleach with EBT.
I just
Are
said you
nuts?
can't. Why are you not listening, CTV? Holy
Because I
fuck!
thought you said you can.
Fuck! You don't
Oh,
listen
man.
to anything I
No,
say, and you're
was
looking for
listening, and you wanted
straws.
and you
Oh
wanted
my
to point out
god!
bleach as something you can buy with
Bro,
EBT.
just shut the fuck up and listen
Well,
to
then
what I
fucking
say,
be clear.
bro.
Then
Why are
clear
you
what
like
you
this?
want.
Okay,
Dude,
look,
just-
Why are you like this?
I think we've achieved world peace.
Closing statements.
I can hear Kat laughing in the next room. So I'm gonna throw this over to
Wait,
Trihex.
can I just say my point and then
Okay,
and
you
then
can
just be
finish your
done with
point.
it?
Then we gotta throw the Trihex.
So-
then we're gonna wrap this up.
So when you're at the point of sale, you scan those two items, you scan your EBT card, and then the amount corrects. And then some individuals get really confused where it's like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't buy bleach for that. And it's like, yeah, it's clearly stated in the EBT. Here's the regulations for that. And sometimes individuals don't have access to that when they enter into that program. The same problem applies to WIC, and especially for WIC, where juices are very clearly defined on what juices you can and cannot purchase. One of the problems in the 2000s, as an example that you hold up, that very brand of Welch's juice is not covered under WIC.
Nor is the coconut rum, just so we're clear.
Yes, because alcoholic beverages are not covered under SNAP nor
Right, I'm
WIC.
agreeing with
So
you. I'm agreeing with you.
so the problem here is, and something that I think needs to do no matter what system you want to bring back up, is very clearly for those people in those programs to know what is allowed and what is disallowed. So there needs to be also a continuation of the education program for individuals in this program. However, I would argue the benefits need to be significantly higher because it's very difficult due to infrastructure reasons for you to even sustain yourself in the amount that you get, even if you get the maximum amount. Like I had so many people under WIC, so many people under SNAP, where they literally had to like crowd from their way just to get to our store for groceries. And then on top of that, they would have to use things like Ride Provide, which is a program that allows people, specifically the elderly, to get free rides to the clinic and stores for free when they meet a amount threshold. Or I argue that amount threshold needs to be lower because even though it's still lower under SNAP, there's so many systems that the state and federal governments need to supplement to push people out of poverty, where it's not just SNAP, it's all of it. That's all I got for that, but holy shit,
we gotta
dude.
throw it over to Trihex for a bit. I see other people are going to raise their hand, but we're probably we can do maybe a little bit longer. So we're going to do Trihex, Brant, Vaush, but then we probably should wrap it up. Trihex?
Okay. So, yeah, I'll keep it quick here. I was going to address a meme thing about CTV's pre-owned stakes from GameStop or whatever, but I'll move on and keep it more concise. Forgive me the name here again. Is it Superpower Broadcast? Okay, so
Superpower Broadcast.
You brought up a concern about a UBI program in the context of like you want to see, I guess, your concern is that some people, if they were given the freedom to use the money to be able to stabilize themselves and the vulnerability provided by the necessity of food stamps this current time here, that they would. I guess your concern is that UBI is giving them too much freedom in that context. They might.
No. I just want to be clear. My concern about UBI is that Bill Gates doesn't need the money. A negative income tax specifically only applies to people that make below a certain income threshold. So UBI is universal. Negative income tax is just for the bottom percentile.
Okay. So I had a point about that. Now I'll pivot a little bit more than that. Okay. So
I'm all fine with giving more people more money at the bottom. So just the way
whenever you introduce like means testing and like that, you're kind of like diluting the immediacy of the necessity to even get this program out right now. Because then you're like, this is gonna get rotted up in Congress all fucking day until it can agree over the particular threshold. It should be
okay, but negative income tax is specifically to get rid of the means testing bureaucracy. I'm just putting that out there just for clarifications. Because as opposed to having a bunch of different welfare programs with all different in-kind transfers.
So in order for me to address your concern then, you only oppose UBI in the context that those who make more than enough money shouldn't get the aid. Other than that,
I'm not even opposed to UBI. If I had to choose between like what Andrew Yang suggested and the current system, I go with Yang. I'm just saying that Milton Friedman's UBI or negative income tax, a more liberal or more progressive version of that is what I propose. He was a bit more stringent. I mean, he is a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian. Mine would be a bit more generous, but I don't think that Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos should be getting $1,000 or $1,200 or however much we want to do it. A negative income tax specifically is only for the safety net purpose. It's not. A UBI is like by right of citizenship, everybody, no matter how rich or poor, gets money. I don't believe in that. I think it should only be the poor and the people that need it. So that's just me.
Yeah, I think we can all definitely agree with some circumstance within that realm. And so I was gonna have here like there are definitely studies done here that when given the opportunity, the people who are not meeting their bare necessities in this country, or really any country with not a robust middle class here, typically when given aid, they're going to spend it responsibly. In the context, they're going to better themselves by getting the necessity they need and not indulging on wasteful spending or whatever. So I think we agree on that point then.
Yeah.
I didn't actually go as far as whenever I was advocating for the UBI program to get into the nuance of how it be implemented, but rather because that's more of like a me and you fapping over how UBI should be done, because I think we both agree on that. It's more so that the immediacy of how it's needed, how dire the bottom 50% of the country is currently vulnerable right now, displaced by COVID, and COVID not going away for the next year plus at our current pacing based off of stagnant vaccination rates and whatnot, or vaccination rates and whatnot. So yeah, I'm more fixated on what's needed now in the next like 3 fucking months.
I got you. And I'm just saying on that. That's why I support the increase. Okay. That's why I support the increase, even though I want to change the system, because that might take years or decades to change the system.
Yeah.
Support the increase.
And then then we're on the. I had a whole thing about fapping to why UBI should be required, or why like people would spend responsibly, which I feel is kind of a moot point because people were arguing about that earlier here. Okay.
No. Okay, that was more like CTV and those guys.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm gonna go to Vaush, then Brant, and then we're wrapping it up.
Bang bang.
Yeah, okay. I just want to say there's always an impulse whenever we talk about stuff like this or any other kind of welfare adjacent program to avoid waste. Conservatives talk about this a lot too. We know Reagan, the welfare queen stereotype, the idea that people are going out and buying lobster and this or that, or unnamed popular coffee boutiques. But in reality, waste really isn't something we should be worrying about at the moment, because at least according to some studies done on food insecurity back in 2019, we have about 35 million people in this country who have experienced hunger. Wealthiest country in the history of the planet. 35 million people. I mean, worrying about like wasting too much money on SNAP or other welfare programs would be like being out in the middle of a desert, digging for water and taking it easy because you're worried you'll drown if you dig too deep. We are so far away from over expenditure in this realm being a problem that it's a joke. So, I mean, we can, faff her out and say like, oh, maybe this person will sell to that, or this incentivizes this. And these are all worthwhile questions to have, but it doesn't change the fact that wherever we need to be is past the horizon right now. I mean, we're talking about minuscule policy changes shifted over about 100 miles towards a proper social democratic system. Of course, I'd like to decommodify the whole system, but if we're just talking about investing in SNAP, then we are so far away from where we need to be.
Brant?
Just speaking on bringing back up the point people were talking about, how people don't largely in part take advantage of SNAP benefits or any other type of state-given benefits. If you have SNAP, you probably don't have a lot of extra spending money. And when you have SNAP card, you have something of value. You have something that can be used to go and get a certain, bevy of items on a menu, right? Within Walmart, H-E-B, Target, Aldi, wherever you're shopping at. Now, that being said, I have personally, anecdotally, had a lot of friends growing up in the neighborhood that one mother would be in a family that made a lot of money, and one would be in one that didn't make a lot of money. And the mother would say things like, look, I need items, for instance, like bleach. I need things that are not covered by an EBT card. You come to the store with me, I'll load up bread, milk, eggs, the things that you need on my card, and you will make an exchange. You buy bleach, detergent, the things that I need for myself. So there are people that find ways around the infrastructure of the system. And I can get behind the idea of it being more generalized and open up to where people could get more things with it, because where there's a will, there's a way. There are people that will find a way to exchange for that. I mean, I don't want to allude to specifics here, but I had friends that would go bring their dealer to the store and buy them stuff so that they could get what they wanted. There's a way that people take advantage of these programs. I think the best way we can control it is making sure that we vet the types of items that you can get, like milk, bread, eggs, the essentials, right? So that people, no matter what, can't take advantage of it largely in part. There's still going to be people that take advantage of it. There's still people that are going to find ways around it infrastructurally. But at least for now, to control the influx of what is bought and to make sure that people are directed. I mean, we show the price per ounce whenever you're there. When you're looking at the item, it shows you how much it's going to cost, so you can see whether or not you're getting the right amount for your money. There are a lot of we have nutritional facts on the back of the box. Why couldn't we bring people to not necessarily a healthier way, because that's subjective, what you think is a healthy diet, everybody eats differently, but to get rid of the extracurricular things. Sorry, my dog is begging right here. I'm getting a little bit off here, but I mean, why couldn't we work together in any capacity to make the system not necessarily fraud proof, but just educating, like what Joe was talking about earlier, educating people on the things that they can get. And then no matter what, like I said, there's going to be people that take advantage of it and game the system. So there's no stopping it. There's no way that you can technically stop it. But educating and allowing people to have the most knowledge that they can have whenever they're in those systems, and to eliminate extracurricular things, so that therefore maybe we can curb the people that don't want to just break the law or commit fraud or whatever that's considered. But that's my final take on it. Essentially, it's just, if we can do that, there's so much more stuff that our government just blatantly wastes money. And I consider myself a libertarian, and I don't like to see us grossly overspend, but I would love to see us at least take care of the people that we have here. The dollar amount's arbitrary. It's all arbitrary.
Okay. So I just want to thank everybody for coming on. Before we do outros, I just want to say once again, I am pushing my YouTube channel really hard right now, trying to get to 50,000 subscribers. We're getting closer than ever. And I appreciate if anybody were to just go to my YouTube channel and help me out. It takes a lot of time to put these together, and I'm not even asking you for money right now. Of course, if you want to donate or sub, I'd appreciate that. But just going to my YouTube and supporting that would really help me out, as I'm trying to get us to 50,000 subscribers. Currently at 41. Hopefully we can get to 50 very soon. I'm going to thank everybody for coming on and mostly abiding by the rules. I didn't know I'd need to put a Starbucks ban in place, but I'm happy that we were able to keep it somewhat orderly. I'm now going to go around the room. Everybody can do their outros for this topic, as well as shouting themselves out. Please do remember to do that. Thank you all for coming on. We're going to start in the top right-hand corner with the best beard on Twitch.
All right. So first of all, for my closing for this topic, I just want to say no one should have to eat mayonnaise sandwiches. And that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Now, first of all, thanks for having me on, Dylan. I had a blast. It was nice to meet you, Vaush, finally, and Trihex. It's really cool to meet you guys. And yeah, come check out my channel. Dylan is pushing to 50K. I just want to get to 3K. So come subscribe to my channel on YouTube. Check me out on Twitch. I stream 5:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern time, Monday to Friday. So if you're up, you're having your coffee, you're looking for a stream to hang out, you can come check out my stream. We do a lot of fun shit. We do game shows. I do accent impression of my parents, and it's a lot of fun. So come check it out, Baba June. Thank you so much, guys.
Truly the best accent on Twitch. We're throwing it over to GTV's chair. Good point. Okay, now we're going to throw it over to Brant.
Well, first off, Dylan, thank you for having me on the show tonight. It's really nice to meet everyone else on the panel as well. As far as the closing on the subject, I think that we all don't want people to go hungry. And with all of the gross overspending that our government does, I don't think that we should, just because we're spending a lot of money over here, we should now start to be conservative monetarily in this particular aspect. I think that should first and foremost be our agenda, to take care of every man, woman, and child in the country. I think we've since the pandemic has started, I think that we have basically let the personal welfare of a lot of people's mental health as well as their physical health go by the wayside. And so to me, it's a no-brainer. In helping people out. I would like to see us maybe strengthen up the infrastructure on it, make it maybe harder to game the system, maybe stricter adherence to it. Like I said, there's going to be people that game the system and try to take advantage of it. That's just the way that's the nature of the beast. And so that's my wrap up on that. Other than that, y'all, my name is Brant. I have a channel on Twitch named BrantForLiberty. We basically cover every day from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Everything that's going on in America and abroad. As of late, it seems as though the Afghan conflict and other foreign interest has been the target of the news lately. So if you're about chopping it up, putting your 2 cents in the chat, coming in and just being informed on what's going on around you. A lot of stuff that the mainstream news and even alt news selectively, chooses to show their clips here and there. We cover a lot of on-the-ground activism and other things like that. So if you want to be informed, you want to know what's going on locally and abroad, stop by Brant for Liberty at Twitch. We also have a YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on DLive, all that stuff where I publish my stuff a day later. But I'm just so thankful to be able to come on a panel and talk with a lot of open-minded people. I look forward to possibly working with some of y'all in the future. I'm always down to chop it up, and I'm one message away. Thank you, Dylan.
Okay. I'm now going to throw it over to CTV.
All right. Well, I obviously always love coming on the Hippy Dippy podcast. It's always a lot of fun for me. I appreciate everybody's participation tonight, even if hypocritical, from Joe Lewis, Vaush, Trihex, and you know what? Not Dr. DrHeemedOut. Dr. DrHeemedOut was the only one tonight that I felt like it was philosophically consistent. So, Dr. DrHeemedOut, loving you, brother.
Fuck me, dude. I gotta reconsider all my positions now. Fuck it out.
So that being said, right, I always love coming together for these conversations. It's a lot of fun for me. I'm glad that you guys appreciate the level of passion, right, that I try to bring to the conversation to keep it entertaining for the folks at home that are sitting here watching us, which is, in fact, the capitalist justification for us all, right, even being here, right? Even Vaush has to admit to that, right? So, from there, just thank you all for being here tonight on the Hippy Dippy podcast. I frankly was expecting Brant to be a little bit more on the right of things, although most of his arguments I heard was on the left, right? Hasan, all of them, they were on the left. It's the right, right? When you
I'm more of a South centrist, but I stated that in the beginning.
You gotta
do
right?
intros, outros.
Yeah. So I facilitate the Wolfpack here on twitch.tv/CriticallyThinkingVeteran, the conservative community here on Twitch. I've been working for over a year now and facilitating a lot, if not most of the conservatives that are here in the community. So if you're a conservative, or not even that, if you're just open-minded, feel free to come by the Wolf's Den. We love having conversations with people. And like I said before, love always coming on and having these kind of conversations.
I got a question for you. CDV.
Sure.
So, what is my rank now in the Wolf's Den? Is it back to Shaman Wolf, or where is it?
Dylan, you've had, no doubt, a troubled history, right? You went from Shaman Wolf to Wolf Zygote, right, at one point. But you know what? I think at the end of all of it, you're still a shaman, right? You're still a shaman, right? Because you do provide a very important role here in the Twitch politics community, which, frankly, right, might be not as appreciated by others, but it is appreciated by me, and it is appreciated by the pack. So, yeah.
Why, thank you. And what rank would Vaush be?
Oh, Vaush is not even there, right? So he's clearly got to be like a beetle or something.
Yeah, I don't believe in hierarchy, thanks.
Yeah,
that's a very beetle thing to say, Vaush. Okay, we're gonna throw it over.
That slave ideology?
Yeah, maybe. We're gonna throw it over to Brant.
You just did.
Oh, I already did Brant. I'm sorry. I didn't know that.
It's all good.
Okay, we're throwing it over to Sprout.
I'll go again. Shit.
All right, so I am DSprouticus. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at DSprouticus. Like I said, we don't need to raise the amount; we need to rebuild it from the bottom up. I think that an important part of that would be making food stamps and welfare systems a way to it goes up, and then once you hit a certain part, it starts going back down. It doesn't just drop off after you make so much money, because when it drops off after you make so much money, it keeps the poor poor, and I don't think we should be enticing the poor to remain poor. And if you enjoy watching a streamer that is able to make other debate panelists absolutely silent because their points are just so on the dot that there is no way to even go against it, then yeah, go follow twitch.tv/TheSprouticus or go follow twitter.com/TheSprouticus.
Okay, we're throwing it over to Joe Lewis.
Yeah, the right has made a very dedicated effort on this platform to try to paint me as some certain type of individual. And I mean, I guess that's fun for them. But I guess when individuals recognize that their arguments they bring to the table are very vapid, insufficient, and very uninformed, there's nothing more to argue. So I'm glad that there's a concession in the language of certain righties on this panel. And hopefully they'll live their best life, but I hope their politics move to a place where that actually can be a betterment of those around them within their communities and actually be advocates of their communities. Because right now it just seems incredibly insufficient. And I hope that the right brings better individuals into the space so they can have better arguments. And maybe we'll see this in a year, maybe we'll never see this, but this fight's pretty fucking hard when we have individuals on our panel who have no idea what SNAP is and how it works and how certain exemptions work. And then like we could have a conversation about WIC and how the WIC guidelines in terms of what you can and cannot purchase are very clearly defined on the check themselves. And maybe that could exist under a program like SNAP under EBT, that you give that to individuals so they know that. But some people don't even know how SNAP works in terms of how you even apply and get there. And I understand it's very hard to look into to programs that you've never participated in. But if you're walking into a conversation about these things, you ought to do your due diligence to make sure you understand programs like SNAP before you just like throw out falsehoods on the internet. And the same goes for COVID, because you guys are fucking ridiculous. I'm never gonna pat your back when you get a vaccine, when you're trying to like back up on your claim. You should have gotten a vaccine way before the people actually told you to. But that being said, you can follow me at twitch.tv/Joe Lewis. The O is a 0. I would have better conversations about this, but your politics are all fucking dog shit for some of you. Vaush is great. Trihex, you're great. Kevin, keep flapping your wings. Heemed, I mean, I try my best to be anti-Canadian, but somebody comes in and ruins it for me. Brant, glad you're here. You know, CTV, Sprout, you guys are great, but your politics are shit, and that's okay because we're Americans. So that's all I got.
Okay, now I'm gonna throw it over to Kevin Castley.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Thanks for having me on again. Always great to be on the Hippy Dippy show. This one was fun. We had some lively debates tonight for sure. I did want to say, just to note, basically, Trihex, that's a cute cat you got there. I like cats. I know Vaush, I know you got a cute cat as well. But yeah, no, animals are good. So basically, just to close out here, I'm Kevin Castley. I run the channel Superpower Broadcasting. We do daily live streams, and I do daily premieres to YouTube, so you can follow me over on Twitch and YouTube. I also stream to Periscope. You can follow me on Twitter at Kevin Castley. Bulk of my content generally focuses on issues of security, humanitarian intervention, and basically spreading liberalism, human rights throughout the world, that kind of stuff. I've also been branching out more to talk about economics and social issues. That's been upended by everything that's been going on in Afghanistan. That's taken up the bulk of my commentary now. We're going to stay on that, and I'll be doing a post show though over on my channel in about half an hour to talk about my performance and everything here. It's been great meeting some of you tonight and getting to debate with people and everything. And if you're interested in debating me, you can send me a debate request over on Twitter at Kevin Castley. DM me and we can work out the time to debate. Always down to debate. I got about 40 debates on my channel. I'm always looking for more debates. I love debates now. And
how many times can you say it? How many more times are you gonna say it?
Yeah, the Joe Lewis. I'm down to have a debate about China, and Vaush, I'm down to have a debate about Afghanistan and the Taliban, that kind of stuff. So thank you, and have a good night, everybody.
6 to 7 times. Brilliant. Trihex.
Actually, okay, so on my outro here, I didn't get to tell you much about myself here because again, the intro was mostly about my the fitness stuff from Dylan here. But my outro here, I wanted to let y'all know here that yeah, I do enjoy politics in the context of being able to help people like feel more engaged. The politically disengaged, I feel often are such because they don't feel represented by particularly modern U.S. politics. So I always try to like make an effort whenever I engage to like understand why y'all are disengaged and reinforce here that y'all can feel represented, that y'all do matter, and that dissociating is exactly what those who currently are in power, who are able to acquire more power thanks to your inactivity, exactly want. So I do enjoy talking about particularly advocating for populist policy and being able to see what American citizens do want demanded and actually have that represented by those in power who can be able to enact it. I love going for a solution-based dialogue. I love going into like how we can solve the problems rather than arguing over like partisan, bickery, nonsense bullshit. That's like that's debate in my opinion. And then finally here, yeah, if you enjoy my content on the political commentary side, you also will love the other spectrum here where I go into fitness. So if you think that my traps are A1, you see my fucking legs, go to my Twitter, check it out there. I'll be more than happy to elaborate on what I do for fitness as well as all the advocacy I do for a healthy lifestyle. So you got to come by my channel, check all that out there. And yeah. And with that, big shout outs to I said Vaush. I think I said Vaush earlier. I said it wrong here, but yeah, Vaush, Heem, Joe, and Superpower Broadcasting. I think, dude, all y'all were fantastic. Everyone here was great, obviously, especially you, CTV. And yeah, ultimately, I conclude here that I have the radical take that I want all of y'all to be fed, housed, and safe. Appearance a radical take as a advocate of social democracy. So here we are.
Thanks, Trihex.
Sure, man.
Well, CTV, I gotta ask you one question, Trihex, though.
Yeah.
Why do you bully me?
What do you mean, babe? Oh, you did a great job too. But
No. It's just kind of weird. Like, hey, Dylan, we're gonna do all these gaming streams, and then it kind of this.
Oh my God, dude.
Ghosted him.
Wow, Trihex.
And it was the last
I've
hippy
been
dippy
in
you,
these
and you
games,
said that
dude.
on the last hippy dippy too.
I'm in the game. I'm in the gym. and shit.
Okay, yeah, I got
Dude.
you. I got you.
Dude, I took a social media break. I wasn't even active because I was actually like my brain was getting freaking Twitter rot, dude. Like, I had to step out for a little bit, dude.
Oh,
I'll play games with you, Dylan.
Call me out. Call me out. Call to action. Let's right now put a date in. September. What do you want to play? You want to play Mario Party? You want to play Mario Kart? What you want to do?
Damn, there's still 4 days left in August. You
How
can't.
about-
wow.
Oh, he's probably got the basic shit. So I'm that way you can't cop out. No, cool.
How about?
September?
Wait, I was about to say
About what?
September
How about
11th.
what?
I think that may not be the best day.
Oh my
But
God.
okay, September 12th.
Oh, it'd be a great day.
September
That's the
12th.
7th anniversary.
September-
7th anniversary of Mario Maker. Let's do it.
Okay, September 12th. Jump King race.
I'll do it. Get that ass clap in 4K. Let's go.
Dope.
Done.
Okay.
Done.
Damn.
Single
Wonderful.
mallet. September
Ass
12th. You got it.
clapped in
Jump King.
4K,
Wonderful.
yo.
I'll train. I'm gonna train. Okay.
All right.
I have no experience,
Do
but
it so.
I got this.
Lappage.
It sounds serious.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna showdown. I'll make
got
promos
it.
for it. Everything. Wonderful. Okay. Vaush, your outro.
My name is Vaush. You can't find me anywhere. I have no online presence. This is the last you'll see of me. I was delighted to come on here. I had a good time. Got my socialization done for the whole month. Really spread my wings. First time I'm speaking to most all of you, actually. Been a fan of yours since long before I started streaming. So thanks for that.
Oh,
Not
wow.
the first time for me, though. I did call you a liar the last time we met on the panel.
That's true. We have a long and storied history.
It's true.
Anyway, you're all very loved. And I hope you all have a wonderful night.
Wonderful.
Hey, you too.
Thank you all for coming on. For everybody who's fans Hippy Dippy, tomorrow is the Sunday recruitment show on my editor's channel. You all have a blessed day. See you later.
Dylan, how we going, buddy?
Have a good one.
Take care, guys. Have a good night.
Peace.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. See you guys next week. I'm sending you guys over to Your Movie Sucks. Good stream. See you guys next week. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube. I'd really appreciate that. I'm really pushing that right now. See you Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. See you later.